points. The S&P 500 was up 67 points. The NASDAQ was up 283 points. From the Coal Investment Group, now Creative Planning, I'm Anthony Priester.
Homes and vehicles are destroyed and countless lives have been changed after floodwaters took over parts of our area.
It started flooding like the Titanic. There's no stopping it.
From Milwaukee to Washington County, people, they are dealing with waterlogged homes, waterlogged cars, and power outages as well.
All the neighbors have been very gracious to everyone who's been talking and willing to help, and so it's good to see that part.
As the cleanup continues from this weekend's flooding, another round of heavy rain this morning. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Dan O'Donnell Show. We will keep you updated on the very latest having to do with the 1,000-year storm. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel has posted some truly shocking data about how fast some of the rivers rose over the weekend. At 8 p.m., August 9th in Wauwatosa, the Menominee River was less than 2 feet. By 10 p.m., it had risen to more than 5 times that height, with still more to go before reaching its peak in the early morning hours of yesterday. That is truly remarkable. It actually hit a total of about 14 feet before starting to recede. Welcome in to the Tuesday edition of the Dan O'Donnell Show. Coming up at 5 o'clock, another chance for you to win $1,000 plus a trip for 2 to fabulous Las Vegas in our iHeartRadio Music Festival Flyaway contest. CPI data comes in very, very good, making the probability of a rate cut by the Federal Reserve in September a near certainty. Before we get to that, though, plus big news on the Russiagate investigation front. A new whistleblower report that was declassified late last night points the finger squarely at Adam Schiff, now California's senator, for basically running with falsified data in an attempt to discredit and ultimately, he hoped, destroy the first Trump administration. That coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Much, much more on the Dan O'Donnell Show. But first, Democrats, remarkably enough, are actually having brief, sort of blink and you'll miss them moments of honesty now that President Trump has put into action his plans to federalize the Washington, D.C. Police Department and crack down on crime in the nation's capital. They are screaming, however, at least publicly, that crime is down significantly. I will explain in detail how Democrats play this game of pretending that crime is down when they really have simply stopped arresting and then prosecuting or doing anything to violent criminals. And I will use Milwaukee as the prime example of how it is true you can't arrest and prosecute your way out of a crime spree when you're not arresting and prosecuting anyone. You want to join us on today's foray into broadcast excellence, or at the very least, in far more likely broadcast competence, give us a call, shoot us a text on the adventknows.com talk and text line 414-799-1130, or toll free 1-800-838-9476. Email me directly, DOD@iHeartMedia.com, at Dan O'Donnell Show on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. We are streaming live via the Dan O'Cam on all three, plus our YouTube channel. And be sure to subscribe to the Dan O'Donnell Show podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to podcasts. Just a couple of hours ago at the White House press briefing today, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt gave an update on the first night of federal deployment on the streets of D.C.
Yesterday, President Trump took bold action to finally restore law and order right here in our nation's capital. The president declared a crime emergency in the District of Columbia, federalized the D.C. Police Department, and mobilized the D.C. National Guard to end violent crime in our nation's capital. As part of the president's massive law enforcement surge, last night, approximately 850 officers and agents were surged across the city. They made a total of 23 arrests, including multiple other contacts. Last night, these arrests consisted of homicide, firearms offenses, possession with intent to distribute narcotics, fare evasion, lewd acts, stalking, possession of a high-capacity magazine, fleeing to elude in a vehicle, no permits, driving under the influence, reckless driving, and a bench warrant. A total of 6 illegal handguns were seized off of District of Columbia streets as part of last night's effort.
That was in one night. Ladies and gentlemen, suffice it to say, it's not entirely possible, given the deployments of Metropolitan Police officers, that might have happened in a week before federal support. Incidentally, as we will hear from the head of the D.C. Police Union, rank and file police officers could not be more supportive of this. But the media, of course, has been spending the past 24 hours telling its audiences that there's no need for this sort of crackdown because DC is completely safe. But then there are very brief peeks behind the curtain, very, very short moments of honesty from those same reporters. For example, ABC News, the World News Tonight with David Muir, tossed to correspondent Mary Bruce, who made a big deal out of the fact that what President Trump was doing was just complete and total overreach because there is no crime in D.C. anymore.
President Trump declaring a public safety emergency in D.C., painting an apocalyptic picture, adamant crime is spiraling out of control. But his depiction stands in stark contrast to the official figures, which show crime in the capital is actually in decline. Violent crime recently hitting a 30-year low, down 26% since last year. Burglary down 19%. Murder down 12%. Still, the president said today the D.C. police will now be able to do whatever they want.
The implication that they can do whatever they want, whatever police brutality you D.C. minority residents are fearing, President Trump will make it worse. Well, earlier in the day, same network, different feed, ABC News Live, which is the network's digital stream, had an anchor by the name of Kyra Phillips, who very briefly got honest about what it is that she's been seeing right outside the ABC News bureau in Washington, D.C.
We've been talking so much about the numbers, and yeah, usually that's how you play devil's advocate, is you talk about, oh, well, stats say crime is down. However, I can tell you firsthand here in downtown D.C. where we work, right here around our bureau, just in the past 6 months, there were 2 people shot. One person died, literally 2 blocks down here from the bureau. It was within the last 2 years that I actually was jumped walking just 2 blocks down from here. And then just this morning, one of my coworkers said her car was stolen a block away from the bureau.
But if you tuned into the World News Tonight broadcast on the ABC network, no, there's no need for any sort of federalization of the D.C. police force. Do you know how you know that Trump is doing the right thing when even on MSNBC, they're having these little tiny moments of honesty? Now, you won't get it from any of the diehard committed leftists like Simone Sanders, who was a member of the Biden administration. She worked for Bernie Sanders. She's basically the new Joy Reid. It's sort of like Highlander. There can be only one insane black woman on MSNBC at a time. So Simone metaphorically beheaded Joy Reid, who's still spouting nonsense on a podcast, but she has now taken the mantle. She is the one crazy black woman who spouts nonsense. She said it's not going to make D.C. safer to have a surge of federal troops or more police officers because, Morning Joe, she's a black woman.
You don't think more police make streets safer?
No, Joe. I'm a black woman in America. I do not always think that more police make streets safer. When you walk down the streets of Georgetown, you don't see a police officer on every corner, but you don't feel unsafe. So what is it about talking about places like Southeast D.C., right? Ward 8, if you will, that that people say, well, we need more officers to make us safe. I think we have to rethink what safety means in America.
Ward 8 would be the more heavily black areas. Georgetown is, as you might imagine, Georgetown University. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C., it's by far the safest area, save for the area immediately around the Capitol, the landmarks, the National Mall, the White House. Georgetown is a phenomenal neighborhood. In fact, if you're ever going to Washington, D.C. on vacation, sightseeing, business, whatever, strongly encourage you to get out there. You need more police officers in the Ward 8 neighborhoods because that's where all the crime is. But even Morning Joe himself, Joe Scarborough, in a rare moment of honesty, said he's been talking to people who live in Washington, D.C., committed libs, not insane ones like Simone Sanders, but ones who, don't want to be shot to death in the gutter. And they're saying they secretly agree with what Trump is doing.
The people that are cheering this on privately are not like right-wing Republicans, are not MAGA people. A lot of our friends are in the media, and also Democrats that worked on Joe Biden's campaign, that worked on other campaigns, that are saying, yeah, I'd like to feel safe walking around this city. If the federal government can be a positive partner in keeping the streets safe, while again, forming a partnership with the DC police and not taking over, then at least the people I've spoken with that live in DC day in, day out, see this as a positive step.
Because even liberals understand that crime actually is out of control in Washington, D.C., and pretty much every Democrat-controlled area, and has been since the George Floyd effect took hold in mid-2020. The idea that crime is down is a fiction that is entirely manufactured by not outright manipulation of crime statistics, although the former police commissioner in Washington, D.C., a very high-ranking official at the Metropolitan Police Department, is on paid leave and under investigation for doing just that, cooking the books to try to make it seem as though crime is lower when it actually isn't. It's done through a massaging of crime data done by specific inaction. That is, not referring crimes as crimes and then not prosecuting them. In fact, in Milwaukee, we have seen this pattern play out ever since 2020. According to the Wisconsin Policy Forum, arrests for serious crimes declined from 2018 to 2022 by 37%. Why is that? For less serious offenses, arrests fell by 61%. From 2012 to 2023, total arrests in Milwaukee absolutely plummeted by 81.2%. There has been, in other words, a concerted effort to not do proactive policing. And this was exacerbated by the fact that we really did here in Milwaukee, despite Mayor Cavalier Johnson's protestations, defund the police. In fact, he repeatedly voted for budgets under previous Mayor Tom Barrett that did just that. We have a crisis of staffing levels at the Milwaukee Police Department and have since the defund the police movement took hold in earnest following the death of George Floyd. In addition to arrests being down by 81% in just a decade, and all of these numbers are the most recent years for which data is available, meaning you can consider these to be current statistics. 81% in a decade. And almost all of that decline, shocker, came after 2020. Not only that, the crimes that were actually ones that resulted in arrest didn't get prosecuted. According to urbanmilwaukee.com, the number of people referred to the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office for charges decreased by 14% from 2018 to 2022. The prosecution rate or charge rate was 45% each from 2015 to 2019. Misdemeanor charge rates dropped to 37% or lower since 2020, reaching a low of 34% in 2022. Felony charge rates only hit 49% in 2017, meaning we were in Milwaukee County simply not charging 50% of cases referred as felonies. That dropped to 40% in 2022. Do you know what this means? That 60% of all felony cases were never actually charged. This is known as the no process rate. And WisconsinRightNow.com did extensive work at the height of the Black Lives Matter Defund the Police movement on just how high Milwaukee County's no process rates were getting. It hit 66%. 2/3 of misdemeanor criminal referrals were just never getting prosecuted in Milwaukee County. I'm willing to wager in Washington, D.C., in Baltimore, in St. Louis, in cities where crime rates, especially violent crime rates, have spiraled out of control, there has been a concerted effort by the Democrats in charge to make it seem as though crime rates are falling. Well, no. Crimes are still being committed. They're still being reported. There just aren't enough police officers on the streets to investigate them, to make arrests. And for the few crimes that are actually ones that result in arrest, 2/3 of them are probably not getting charged. And this is to say nothing about all of the criminals who are released on low or no bail. The ones who are given slaps on the wrist, probation, if that, instead of jail time. A tiny fraction of the crimes that are committed are ever arrested and ever prosecuted. So to say that crime is down 36% is a complete fabrication. Prosecutions are down 36%, and that's a result of a specific policy decision, not, and I stress, not a result of Democrats succeeding on reducing crime. In fact, here in Milwaukee County, we've had nearly 2 decades of non-prosecutions. I'll explain when we come back.
Keep in touch with Dan on Twitter at Dan O'Donnell Show. More of the show next.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival, presented by Capital One, is back in Vegas.
T-Mobile Arena.
Streaming live only on Hulu. A weekend full of superstar performances. And keep listening for the next chance to win your way there.
Capital One is the proud presenting partner of iHeartRadio Music Festival, bringing great products, rewards, and services to its customers. What's in your wallet?
You're great at protecting your own personal information. You probably even use things like two-factor authentication, strong passwords, VPN. But as much as you try to be in control of how your information is protected, there's lots of places that also have it. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every single second for identity threats. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock specialist is going to help solve the identity theft issues, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% off your first year with a promo code Beck at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Michaela's Mobile Spa, Michaela! Michaela got a quick business insurance quote from Progressive and chose from over 30 customizable coverages. Sure, it helps she's her only employee and does literally everything. But while others would rest on their laurels, Michaela was hard at work saving big. So take that, hypothetical other employee who doesn't exist. Be your own Michaela. See if you could save in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Coverage is not available in all states or for all vehicles and coverage selections.
I'm Kelly Lammert at Clean Living Environments. Exhausted today because last night was sweaty and sleepless? Kids upstairs can't sleep unless your bedroom is freezing and you're overwhelmed by stifling humid heat just a few steps up the stairs? Clean Living Environment Clean ducts allow more cool air to make it through your vents to the farthest room from the furnace and every room in between. Clean Living Environment's AeroSeal duct sealing allows your furnace and ducts to deliver cool, refreshing air as your HVAC system was designed. The engineer didn't account for loosely fitted pipes snaking from the furnace through walls to vents or loosely boxed off stud spaces and right angle returns forcing air out of ducts. Literally tonnage of cool air escaping into the basement, walls, and attic before reaching intended rooms. Dank basement air sucked into gaps and distributed throughout the house results in dust, musty smells, less cooled air to parts of the house, and larger energy bills. Upgrading summer is cool. Get more out of your ducts. CleanLivingEnvironments.com. That's CleanLivingEnvironments.com.
We use powerful truck-mounted carpet cleaning units designed to remove even the toughest dirt, and certified cleaning technicians who understand the definition of clean.
Edelman Carpet, Furniture, and Drapery Cleaning.
It's Edelman again. Edelman. Make News Talk 1130 WISN your number one preset on our free iHeartRadio app. Powered by Gruber Law.
One call, that's all.
Injured?
Remember, one call, that's all.
Classical conservatism. Contemporary style. This is the Dan O'Donnell Show.
You know, I'm starting to think that some of those officials in Washington, D.C., responsible for keeping the public safe might not be totally competent. At a press conference today, the Metropolitan Police Chief, Pamela Smith, had to be saved by Mayor Muriel Bowser when she was asked about what the chain of command now is for her officers, and appeared to have no earthly idea what chain of command meant.
What the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the process.
The police chief of Washington, D.C. said, "What does that mean?" to a question about chain of command. In case you were wondering, she was formerly the chief equity officer for the Metropolitan Police Department, so that might answer some questions about just how qualified Chief Pamela Smith is. Meanwhile, the Attorney General of Washington, D.C., top prosecutor for the district, Brian Schwalib, in 2021, in response to citizen complaints about all manner of crime just skyrocketing in the district, said, look, we can't arrest and prosecute our way out of this stuff.
We as a city and a community need to be much more focused on prevention and surrounding young people and their families with resources if we want to be safer in the long run. We cannot prosecute and arrest our way out of it.
Well, we're going to test that theory right now in 2025. Aren't we? In fact, there is a test case for all of this. This idea that you don't need to arrest and prosecute your way out of a crime wave. It is, again, in Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. When District Attorney John Chisholm was first elected, he was one of the very first progressive prosecutors in the entire country. This was a whole movement that he helped to kickstart in the mid-2000s, 2005 to 2007. He gets himself elected and immediately implements a plan in which he dramatically increased the use of deferred prosecution agreements, especially for younger offenders who are arrested for often very serious crimes, but given sweetheart deals in which they were never prosecuted. This helped to decrease what looked on paper to be a steadily rising crime rate, but in fact wasn't. Chisholm infamously said in an interview with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel in 2007, "Is there going to be an individual I divert or put into a treatment program who is going to go out and kill somebody? You bet. Guaranteed. It's guaranteed to happen. It does not invalidate the overall approach. So who exactly did Chisholm suggest as the sacrificial lamb who is going to give their life so that his insane leniency might live on? Chisholm understood from the very beginning, like all of the progressive prosecutors that followed him, that their plan was very dangerous. This radical reimagining of prosecution would result in the loss of innocent lives. It's rather chilling, isn't it, that he saw this as a necessary sacrifice. Now, 3 years after that interview, the Journal-Sentinel actually reviewed Chisholm's deferred prosecution program and found, and I quote, dozens of examples that raise questions about how the program is being implemented. More than 200 defendants charged with felony sexual assault, armed robbery, felony assault of a police officer, felony child abuse, high-volume cocaine trafficking were never prosecuted. The most stomach-turning example, a guy by the name of Cedric B. Young. He was a 51-year-old man given a deferred prosecution agreement on charges of sexually assaulting a 2-year-old girl. He was never prosecuted for the sexual assault of a child. Faced a maximum sentence of 60 years in prison. But a psychologist told his attorneys that, quote, he did not consider Young to be a pedophile. Young admitted to sexually assaulting a baby, a literal baby, never served a day in prison. There were more than 900 defendants who were given these sorts of sweetheart deals. 30% violated them by committing new crimes, by failing to appear in court, or failing to fill court-ordered requirements. At least a dozen were given deferred agreements, even though they already had extensive criminal records. One of them, a guy by the name of Shemaine Worthy, had at least 14 prior felony and misdemeanor convictions for forgery, burglary, drug offenses, escape. He got a deferred agreement in 2009 on marijuana and theft charges. Less than a week later, he broke into a car. The agreement was revoked. But in a number of the cases where defendants did commit new crimes, not only did their original deferred prosecution agreement stand, they were given different deferred prosecution agreements on the new crimes that they committed. Crime skyrocketed as a result of this. But the prosecution numbers kept falling. Milwaukee, for the first time since 2006, has a new district attorney. He was, of course, John Chisholm's chief of staff, his number, not chief of staff, but you know what I'm saying, his number one lieutenant, Kent Lovern. There is no evidence that any of the philosophies have changed. In fact, as recently as 2021, Chisholm and his ADAs were bragging about the fact that they weren't giving out bail, that they wanted to get rid of bail. It didn't make the community safer, but it made the liberals in charge of law enforcement and prosecution in Milwaukee County feel better about themselves. This same thing has been going on in cities from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco. As insane as San Francisco is politically, would you believe they actually recalled and removed from office their district attorney several years back, who was engaged in the exact sort of deferred prosecution nonsense that Milwaukee DA John Chisholm was for so many years? In fact, he was a lead disciple and protege of Chisholm in the progressive prosecution community. No prosecutions will necessarily mean a reduction in the number of convictions. It doesn't reduce crime. It just makes it seem as though crimes aren't being committed. When there are far fewer police officers on the streets, as there are in Milwaukee and there are in Washington, D.C., and we're in San Francisco and every other Democrat-controlled city, there are fewer arrests. Crimes are still being reported, but they aren't being logged as arrests, as prosecutions. This gives the impression that somehow crime is down when it's not. Oftentimes, when people know that the police aren't coming, that criminals aren't going to be punished, they just stop reporting crimes. They just chalk it up to part and parcel of living in a Democrat-controlled city. Your bike is stolen. Why bother even reporting it? Just get a new bike because you know doggone well it's never going to resurface and you're never going to get any sort of arrest or conviction as a result of such a minor crime. You're still victimized, but you have no actual recourse. This is ultimately the result of progressive prosecution and progressive leadership in cities. Fortunately, D.C. has the recourse of federalization. We'll dive into this in a little further depth next.
You, Las Vegas, and the best musical artists on the globe. Sounds delightfully combustible, right? Win a trip for two to the iHeartRadio Music Festival presented by Capital One. 3 times each weekday. Text in a keyword and you might be a winner in the nationwide iHeartRadio Music Festival Flyaway Contest. Also in the prize package, $1,000.
The iHeartRadio Music Festival Flyaway Contest is sponsored locally by the friendly experts at Holiday Automotive in Fond du Lac. With 1,300 vehicles in one place, it's worth the trip. HolidayAutomotive.com.
Hi, I'm Tom Detlich with Grandview Homes. Life can move fast or slow or somewhere in between. So when you want to sell your home, we're here to work on your schedule. Whether you need to close in 10 days or need more time to get things in order, we'll make it happen. We'll buy your home completely as is, no matter the condition. At Grandview Homes, we know your time is precious, and we won't waste it by giving you the runaround. Just a fair, guaranteed offer on your schedule. Get your no-obligation offer at grandviewhomes.com today.
Panic strikes as you realize on Wednesday that Thursday is your anniversary. The reservations being secured.
We'll see you at 8.
The gift being purchased. Yeah, you've got this. Just like Associated Bank's got you with early pay up to 2 days early on direct deposits. So even though they call you Last Minute Lisa, we'll make your last minute scrambling a bit easier. You've got this with early pay from Associated Bank. See associatedbank.com/checking or ask a banker for details. Member FDIC.
Churio with a 2-run blast. That's the sound of August Brewers baseball in Milwaukee. Make the most of every remaining summer game day and get your seats at brewers.com/tickets.
Bob here from Industry Revolutionizing Redefined Realty. There's no way an antique Milwaukee Badger ale beer bottle would have sold for $21,000 without auction. Only Redefined Realty combines MLS with auction. MLS gets your home found, and just like that beer bottle, auction compels buyers to compete in a bidding war. Buyers see the actual high bid, then outbid each other over and over and over. Redefined Realty's home sellers love standing on the sideline, watching returns on investment increasing. It's cool and fun. Selling your home with total price transparency guarantees you leave closing a winner with the maximum profit possible. Redefined Realty allows buyers to compete with or without an agent. Redefine's winning real estate combo, MLS plus auction, is the only marketing strategy that allows buyers and sellers to both win. Just like the buyers of your home, you're going to love meeting a winner at closing. Visit redefinerealty.com for a free comparable market analysis today and let yourself win. Buyers win, sellers win, let yourself win. Real estate for winners, redefinerealty.com.
We ran the number and determined the overseas furniture makers are paying an extra 38% to package and ship their iffy furniture to the Midwest.
They're not paying it. The customer is.
That means of the $1,000 spent on a piece of iffy imported furniture, $380 of those dollars are paying for nothing that makes the product better.
But 82% of the furniture sold at Penny Mustard is made within 300 miles of us.
Swaddled in a comfy blankie and hand delivered right here in the Midwest.
So we're able to invest that extra $380 into higher quality materials and craftsmanship.
The result is solid, sturdy, American-made furniture that lasts for generations.
Try doing that with the iffy-made furniture they make overseas.
So when you're buying new furniture, would you rather pay for low quality, global shipping, and dumpsters full of packaging?
Or would you rather spend that money on long-lasting, locally crafted furnishings?
When you shop at Penny Mustard, it adds up.
PennyMustard.com.
Some things are easier said than done, like packing your carry-on and getting everything to fit. Whew. Other things are easier done than said, like getting $350 cash back when you open a new TrueStone checking account, so you can bag back some cash back to stash in your backpack. Hard to say, but easy to do, because our digital switch kit makes setting up your new TrueStone checking account practically effortless. Easy and $350? It's true, because we're TrueStone. Open by December 31st, and within 60 days, set up a $5,000 direct deposit and e-statements. Membership required.
Hi, I'm Willa Voss. I'm 8 years old. Mom and Dad own Cut and Go Tree Service. Yes, they did name me after a tree. Our family loves this country and the freedom it provides. Every morning, I look forward to starting the school day with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please say it along with me, even if you just say it in your mind. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. American patriots will enjoy a 5% discount for flying the American flag and mentioning this commercial when the Cut and Go remote control, automobile mounted, articulated crane, grapple saw operators are putting your dead trees on the ground or removing large branches that grew over something important. An all-American Tons of Trees movement. CutandGoTrees.com. That's CutandGoTrees.com.
In 1920, a magazine article announced something incredible. 2 young girls had photographed real fairies. That article was written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the man who invented Sherlock Holmes. How did he fall for that? Hoax is a new podcast from me, Dana Schwartz, the host of Noble Blood.
And me, Lizzie Logan. Every episode will explore one of the most audacious and ambitious tricks in history.
Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Hoax, and listen now.
Injured? Call Gruber Law.
One call, that's all.
Opinion, emotion, passion. This is News Talk 1130 WISN. The next generation is here. You're listening to The Dan O'Donnell Show.
A listener responding to my assertion that a lot of times crimes just aren't reported because it's assumed nothing will be done. He says via text on our adventknows.com talk and text line, you're exactly right. I had a gun pulled on me at a job at 17th and Keefe today in Milwaukee. Didn't even bother calling the police. No point in it. Boy. Dear listener, I do hope you're okay. It sounds like this is something that happens reasonably often. Hopefully, you're dealing with police officers a bit more competent than Washington, D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith, who today was stumped by the concept of a chain of command.
What the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well,
What does that mean? Chain of command? Is this a reference to slavery, sir? I dare say that is racist. D.C.'s police union chief, Gregory Pemberton, meanwhile, was on Fox News, said the rank-and-file police officers, probably not the biggest fans of Chief Smith, are totally behind President Trump's plan because they desperately need the help.
Look, we completely agree with the president that crime in the District of Columbia is out of control and something needs to be done with it. We have to go back to how we got here, though. In 2020, the D.C. City Council passed an enormous amount of legislation that handcuff police officers, exposes them to administrative, civil, and even criminal liability, even when they do their jobs properly. And now, 5 years later, our authorized sworn strength is 4,000 sworn police officers. We currently have 3,180. So we have more than 800 vacancies for the position of police officer. And the way the department makes up for that gap is through 2 million hours of mandatory overtime every year.
Hey, does that sound familiar? That's the exact same thing that's going on in Milwaukee. There aren't enough police officers patrolling the streets, and we have a mayor in Cavalier Johnson who's pleading poverty saying that the state just isn't giving Milwaukee enough money in shared revenue to be able to adequately cover for the cost of all of these new hire police officers that are needed, or the overtime for existing police officers filling in gaps, say patrolling Water Street downtown on weekend nights, even though there was an additional $200 million in sales tax revenue that was just generated thanks to an Act 12 passage by the state, by Republicans in the state legislature, that authorized a new sales tax for Milwaukee, in addition to tens of millions of dollars of shared revenue and a significant boost in a supplemental payment that was designed solely to go to law enforcement. But somehow this wasn't enough. If only Milwaukee could be federalized as well. Now, before I get the PolitiFact Wisconsin or Hacks at Wisconsin Watch people all over me for saying that Dan O'Donnell supports authoritarianism. There is no mechanism for the federalization of the Milwaukee Police Department. There would be the possibility if things got completely out of control that you would be able to bring in the National Guard. That, however, is to be done only in extreme circumstances. Washington, D.C., though, is completely different because it is the nation's capital and because the Constitution designates that only Congress has ultimate authority, that the federal government is supposed to have all of the control over Washington, D.C. It was only until 1973. In 1973, Congress agreed to cede a portion of the control to Washington, D.C. because you had a bunch of libs saying, well, we're not represented. We need to have our own mayor. We need to have our own common council. We need to have our own police department. We need to have all this stuff that, frankly, has been run by Democrats exclusively. There has never once since 1973, 52 years, been a Republican mayor of Washington, D.C. It is widely considered to be one of the most Democrat cities, one of the bluest cities in the entire country. Wouldn't you know it, within 52 years, crime is getting out of control to the point where the federal government needs to step in. What's truly amazing about President Trump is that he's able to get Democrats to say things that they know are fundamentally untrue. Crime is down in D.C. Yes, compared to 2023. Let's compare it to 2018. And let's factor in how many crimes are being arrested, how many crimes are being prosecuted, how many crimes are even being reported in comparison with generations ago. Trump is actually able to make his political opponents take ridiculous positions such as crime is okay. Actually, crime in Democrat-controlled cities, well, that's just a part of life. You know what? You're going to have your bike stolen. You may get carjacked. There was some hilarious guidance coming from the D.C. Police Department a few years back. How to avoid getting carjacked? Well, drive in the center lane. Don't drive anywhere near a sidewalk. You don't want to get grand theft autoed where you're hit in the face with a gun, thrown out of the car, and then the dude drives away. Drive in the center lane. Don't slow down when you're in high crime areas. Oh, yes, of course. And who could forget one of the single greatest lib responses to car thefts in Milwaukee and elsewhere across the country? They sued the car manufacturers for being too easy to steal. Milwaukee Police Department has actually told people who drive Kias, don't even bother bringing them into the city because they're probably going to be stolen. The big idea for reducing the number of Kia and Hyundai thefts was to sue the manufacturers because they weren't doing enough on theft prevention. That's like suing the manufacturer of a bikini because rapes are up. If that sounds ridiculous, so too should suing a car manufacturer because their cars are just too easy to steal. Maybe as a city, you should be focused on arresting and prosecuting and securing convictions of those who are stealing Kias and Hyundais. Nope. We're just going to sue the car manufacturer. Washington, D.C., incidentally, I believe, has joined that lawsuit, as has Baltimore. It is still ongoing that liberal cities are suing car manufacturers. They've already tried suing gun manufacturers because of homicide rates. Again, do you know what disproves pretty much every liberal idea about gun control and what's really causing massive out-of-control homicide rates? Wisconsin, specifically Wisconsin around Thanksgiving weekend. There are hundreds of thousands of guns, oftentimes high-powered, scary-sounding assault-style weapon guns going into the North Woods to hunt deer. How many homicides typically result from all of those people? Do you realize that Wisconsin hunters during the 9-day gun deer season constitute one of the largest standing armies in the entire world? There are 0 homicides ever. Now, well, Dan, they aren't in close proximity to each other. They aren't at bars where there could be disputes and then guns come out. Oh, yes, there are. I know enough hunters to know that what you do while out in the stand, you knock back a couple. What do? You go into town, you go into the little bar at night. Nobody kills each other. Weird how that happens, isn't it? You're listening to the Dan O'Donnell Show. When we come back, we name the unhinged liberal of the day who is promising to take out some ICE officials.
From the Lynch Buick GMC of West Bend Total Traffic Center.
Northbound Howell is shut down with a crash just before the airport spur. Highway 28 eastbound in Sheboygan County closed at Highway Triple P with a crash. Got the right lane blocked with an accident. 894 southbound at Beloit. I'm Kevin Henry. That's your latest total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle, founder of Blindster.com. I started Blindster in 2010 to make quality, custom-made blinds affordable to everyone. Traditional window covering retailers are expensive. Our prices are low, and our blinds are guaranteed to fit. Blindster.com.
Dan O'Donnell here for Mander Collision and Glass, which really is your best decision after a collision. I've been trusting my vehicles with Mander for years, and I've referred dozens of family members and friends there. All of them say the exact same thing as Mander customer Adam, who left this 5-star review. Your car will be in great hands here. Brian and Crystal took amazing care of my BMW M4. I had dents and scratches from a tree branch falling on my car, and they made sure that the car was taken care of. Everyone at Mander was professional and timely. I hope. But if I do, Mander has locations across the greater Milwaukee and Waukesha area, so getting to one is easy and convenient. And starting your repair is just as easy and even more convenient. All you need to do is head online to mandercollision.com.
It's one of the hottest topics when it comes to finance and your money. The One Big Beautiful Bill. If you haven't read it, we don't blame you. It's 900 pages with 400 just for tax provisions. Not exactly light reading. You know who has read it? Annex Wealth Management. That's where Instant Insight webinars come in. They're designed to provide clarity for today's hot topics. Get up to speed fast. Check out the full Instant Insight schedule at annexwealth.com/events. Unbiased advice from a fee-only fiduciary. Find out more at annexwealth.com.
I'm Ryan Harrison, owner of Ryan Waterproofing. If it seems rain hangs around your home coming down as insidiously delicate droplets or in buckets, and if neither, rain tends to lurk suspiciously in the atmosphere around your house, you probably have a wet, mildewy, leaky basement with cracked walls. No basement wall or foundation repair is too big or small for Ryan Waterproofing. We won't be the most expensive. The larger the job, the more you'll save with Ryan. We've eliminated bowed walls, cracks, spalling, seepage, and flooding in Coast Guard stations, museums, and countless Wisconsin homes. Ryan's waterproofing experts show up on time and do exactly what we say we're going to do, eliminating your water problems, restoring your home, even ending your negative obsession with rain. Imagine looking out the window for rainbows rather than obsessing about your basement walls and floors next time, every time it rains. Free estimates, affordable financing. Because praying for drought is overrated. Ryan Waterproofing, call Ryan.com. That's callRION.com.
I'm Victor Harding, a true trial attorney at Warshevsky Law. You've heard our advertising for years. While it's been effective introducing Warshevsky to injured people in need of maximum judgments and settlements, most of our clients come from personal referral. Referrals from former clients grateful for the settlement or trial judgment Warshevsky won on their behalf. Thus, they're recommending us to friends and family. Referrals from people in the community, including other lawyers and judges who want to make sure their friends and family are taken care of. Still not sure? Ask around. Warshevsky is referred by Wisconsin law enforcement officers who've seen Warshevsky attorneys in action, desperate to make sure friends and family receive just compensation. Insurance adjusters, often our adversaries, refer their family members hurt in accidents. They know the work we do. They all refer Warshevsky because, big case or small, we can help. If someone you love is injured, please let them know, because at the end of their ordeal, their injury is about the money. Warshevsky.com.
We can make a multi-generational home work.
Diamond Homes. We all remember that one teacher who made a difference. Now's your chance to say thank you in a big way. iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominate an outstanding teacher in your life to be among the winners of $5,000 to stock their classroom at iHeartRadio.com/teachers.
You can't be stopped with Unstoppable's laundry scent boosters because they give your clothes 24-hour nonstop freshness. So even on your longest nonstop days, you'll be confident in smelling fresh all day long. Try now for as low as $5 and smell unstoppable.
For many of us, the most important part of our routine between 6 and 9 weekday mornings is to listen to every minute of the Jay Weber Show on WISN. Sadly, sometimes less important elements of our lives get in the way, such as work, children, and bathing. Don't despair. The Jay Weber Show podcast is available 24/7 to fill any gaps in your hunger for entertainment. Just go to newstalk1130.com, click the podcast tab, and enjoy Jay Weber on demand.
The next generation.
I'm
the one.
I'm the only one.
You're listening to Dan O'Donnell.
A couple of texts here that are about two different things, but sort of related. One by a YouTube user who goes by the handle Republican, who I actually happened to meet last week at the Wisconsin State Fair. Very, very nice guy. Stopped me and said, "Hey, Dan, it's a pleasure to meet you." He writes, took a nice picture with him. Very, very cool guy. He writes, "Here's an analogy for crime. If a 500-pound person loses 100 pounds, they are still morbidly obese. That is how this crime stat scam works. Less does not equal a good place." That is an incredible analogy. Paul, meanwhile, writes, "Good stuff today, Dan. Maybe we can get a George Webb Burgers / Brewers shout out in this broadcast too." Let me tell you, I don't want to jinx anything, so I'm not going to say how close we are, but let's just say in a couple of games, with all the burgers that I'm about to eat, I might be up to 500 pounds.
Make me crazy.
Trump is Hitler.
We are in pre-Nazi Germany.
Make me crazy. All white people are racist.
Trump is dangerous because he's evil. America is over.
Here we go. It's time to name the unhinged liberal of the day. A lot of great choices today, but only one stood out. I mean, we have got a congresswoman who's calling ICE a terrorist organization. We've got an MSNBC weirdo who says he's way more worried about climate change than getting mugged in Washington, D.C. But here we have this random TikToker who says he can't wait for Donald Trump's presidency to be over so he can start unmasking and then assaulting ICE agents. Rather stupidly, he showed his entire face, and he's very easy to track down by the FBI.
Message is for all the ICE agents out there today. When Donald Trump's reign of terror is over, we will be rounding you all up and putting you in jail. We're going to raid and destroy your homes. We're going to handcuff you and take you away in front of your families for breaking the Constitution of the United States of America. That's why we hold cameras to your face, so that we can have facial recognition for when Donald Trump's out of office, because the tables are going to turn on you. Me personally, I'll fight a fucking ICE agent. There's nothing illegal of that. They are hiding their faces. They could be criminals. I'll take my chances in court. Around and find out. Have a nice day.
Okay, that have a nice day at the end was super creepy. That Twitter tough guy, or TikTok tough guy, as it were, your unhinged liberal of the day.
All programs on News Talk 1130 WISN are broadcast through the NX Wealth Management Studios. NX Wealth Management. Know the difference. Listen to Benjamin Yount, weekday mornings 9 to 11 on News Talk 1130 WISN Milwaukee. And make WISN the #1 preset on your car radio and on the new iHeart app. Free never sounded so good.
After days of flooding and heavy rains.
Germantown Fire Chief John Delane says the bloated Menominee River has pushed, for now, knee-high water levels into one neighborhood. It's where a voluntary evacuation order is in place and where rescue boats have been pulling people out. He says several people have opted to stay in their homes, all after record rains and flooding throughout southeast Wisconsin over the weekend. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
A father and son were actually rescued yesterday from the flooded Menominee River in Menominee Falls. They were looking for a lost dog that was later found last night. And a pedestrian was struck and killed in Milwaukee's 3rd Ward this morning. It happened near the Milwaukee Public Market on the corner of Broadway and St. Paul. The cause of that accident remains under investigation. The 4 o'clock business report brought to you by the Good Feet store. The Dow up today, 483 points. The NASDAQ gained 287, while the S&P rose 69. Checking the holiday automotive of Fond du Lac Sports Scoreboard, Packers quarterback Jordan Love had surgery for a torn ligament in his left thumb. He's expected to miss about a week of practice. From the Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin News Center, I'm Dave Michaels on Wisconsin's most listened to radio station, News Talk 1130 WISN.
Here's the latest forecast presented by AdventKnows.com from the Fox 6 weather experts.
Scattered showers and thunderstorms are still possible this afternoon and evening, with the potential for some moderate to heavy rain at times. Drying out finally Wednesday with sunshine through the remainder of the week. Dew points will also drop. I'm Fox 6 meteorologist Stephanie Barrichello.
This report is sponsored by Rapid Radios.
Stay connected when it matters most. Be prepared with Rapid Radio's walkie-talkies. With instant push-to-talk and LTE nationwide coverage, you can reach family and friends in any emergency. 100% private, no contracts, no hassle.
Stay safe. Order now at rapidradios.com. You're great at protecting your own personal information. You probably even use things like two-factor authentication, strong passwords, VPN. But as much as you try to be in control of how your information is protected, there's lots of places that also have it. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every single second for identity threats. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock specialist is going to help solve the identity theft issues, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% off your first year with a promo code Beck at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Michaela's Mobile Spa, Michaela! Michaela got a quick business insurance quote from Progressive and chose from over 30 customizable coverages. Sure, it helps she's her only employee and does literally everything. But while others would rest on their laurels, Michaela was hard at work saving big. So take that, hypothetical other employee who doesn't exist. Be your own Michaela. See if you could save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage is not available in all states or for all vehicles and coverage selections.
How long have you been living with that joint pain? You're calling it an old sports injury or just old age, but you just don't have to live with it. Jay Weber here saying it took me too long to figure that out. If you're someone who's experiencing spine or musculoskeletal pain or shoulder, hip, or knee pain, think Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. They're the doctors and techs that I trust with my shoulder problems. I've had issues for years, and there's not enough damage to warrant surgery.
injury, so Ortho Wisconsin helps me manage the pain. Their clinicians, physicians, and surgeons are committed to providing the highest quality joint care and handle everything from simple strains and tears to sports injuries to managing degenerative diseases to complex joint replacements. In fact, Orthopedic Associates specializes in same-day total joint replacements at their ambulatory surgery center in Pewaukee, and lesser treatments like physical therapy can be done at the Pewaukee, Brookfield, and New Berlin locations. Based on my experiences, you will be impressed with Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin and their staff. You can find them at orthowisconsin.com. orthowisconsin.com. Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There is a difference.
Acumen Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLSConsumerAccess.org, number 255368.
Don't settle for a flimsy bank pre-approval. Get the pre-approval listing agents and sellers recognized as better than the rest. The rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval from Acunet. Get yours by clicking on the blue button at accunet.com.
I'm Victor Harding. If you or someone you love is injured, I highly recommend Complex Litigation Lawyer of the Year, Warshevsky's Frank Cravello.
Frank here. If you're injured, the quality of your attorney and law firm will likely have greater impact on the compensation you receive than even the facts of your case. I highly recommend Best Lawyers Product Liability Attorney of the Year, Warshevsky's Victor Harding.
The quality of your attorney and law firm are huge factors in the compensation injured Wisconsinites receive. Injured?
It is about the money.
Warshevsky.com.
Bill Berrien is a former Navy SEAL, a businessman, and he's running for governor.
I'm Bill Berrien. While the globalists and corrupt politicians shipped our jobs to China, I went all in on Wisconsin. At my manufacturing business, we hire American, build American, and take the fight to China. I'm an outsider and a businessman who puts America first, just like President Trump. Together, we will make Wisconsin manufacturing great again.
Bill Berrien for governor, paid for by Bill for Wisconsin.
Your home cleaning friend, it's Edelman again. Edelman.
Show summaries, podcasts, political tidbits,
And the hottest photo galleries in radio. All available to you whenever you demand them at newstalk1130.com.
Homes and vehicles are destroyed, and countless lives have been changed after floodwaters took over parts of our area.
It started flooding like the Titanic. There's no stopping it.
From Milwaukee to Washington County, people, they are dealing with waterlogged homes, waterlogged cars, and power outages as well.
All the neighbors have been very gracious to everyone who's been talking and willing to help, and so it's good to see that part.
Once again, our thoughts and prayers here on the Dan O'Donnell Show go out to all those affected by the flooding, by the storms. It doesn't seem like we're getting any real relief. You're probably woken up this morning at about 5 a.m. by more of a torrential downpour. We are hopefully going to start drying out later on in the week as cleanup and recovery efforts continue across southeast Wisconsin. Welcome back. 4 o'clock hour, 414-799-1130 is our adventknows.com talk and text line. Reaches toll free, 1-800-838-9476. Email me, dod@iheartmedia.com. Morning Joe on MSNBC this morning. MSNBC contributor Anand Giridharadas says he is far more scared of climate change and losing his right to vote in Washington, D.C. than he is being the victim of crime.
A relatively small crime problem is being used for specific authoritarian purposes that we know and understand. So let's be clear about DC does have one really big crime problem, which was the January 6th insurrection incited by the current president of the United States. And his first act in coming back was pardoning all the people who tried to overturn constitutional republic order in Washington, D.C. When I go to D.C., I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid of losing my vote. I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid that my children's freedom to breathe will be stolen in a world where climate change policy is non-existent.
These people are truly beyond parody. Time for the Daily Trump Date.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
Trump just keeps winning.
It is a win for the administration.
It's also a big win for the United States.
We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
Consumer Price Index report out today, seasonally adjusted 0.2% month over month in July, 2.7% on a 12-month basis. This according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Excluding food and energy, core CPI increased 0.3% and 3.1% from a year ago. Now, all of these were either in line with analyst expectations or far lower. And the fact that these numbers were a lot lower than the doom and gloom forecasts of Liberation Day a few months ago sent stocks soaring today. In fact, the S&P 500 closed above 6,400 for the very first time in its history. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
We continue to see positive economic reports across the board. Today's CPI report revealed that inflation beat market expectations once again, and inflation remains stable. Overall, inflation has run at a 1.9 average annual pace in President Trump's first 6 months in office. Prices for everyday goods continue to decline. Energy prices fell in July, including gasoline, which is down nearly 10% over last year, and propane, which is down 2.5% over last year as well. Egg prices fell once again in July and are down 20% since President Trump took office. Shelter inflation, the largest contributor to overall inflation, is at its lowest level since October of 2021.
Do you want a more complete list of all the stuff that is lower in price? We had negative inflation last year to this year. Ready? Peanut butter, sports tickets, tinned fish, frozen vegetables, rice and pasta, books, non-prescription drugs, butter and margarine, internet services, shipping fares, education and communication commodities, which were down 4.3%, hotel stays, energy commodities, fuel oil, and smartphones, which are down nearly 15% from last year. Now, it wasn't just a big win for the president's policies on inflation today, also on illegal border crossings, says the press secretary.
The Trump administration continues to shatter records on border security. According to brand new numbers released this morning from Customs and Border Patrol, illegal crossings have fallen to all-time lows once again. Here were the records set in July. Again, these numbers were released this morning. The lowest monthly nationwide encounters ever, down nearly 90% from the monthly average under the Biden administration. The lowest monthly Border Patrol apprehensions nationwide ever, smashing the previous record set the prior month in June.
Today was the first day where President Trump's troop surge, quote unquote, was put into effect. The federalization of the Washington, D.C. Police Department. Leavitt revealed some of the statistics from the first night. Last night, 23 arrests for a wide variety of crimes, including homicides. Today, U.S. Attorney for District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, Judge Jeanine, went off on reporters daring to ask why this was necessary, that somehow D.C.'s crime is lower.
Anyone who wants to tell me the crime is down and that we don't need an emergency focus on crimes of violence, all they need to do is take a look at this and talk to the loved ones and the family members of these individuals, all shot and killed long before their time.
Now, it isn't just a crackdown on criminality. It's not just a federalization of police force for investigating crimes. It is also, as Caroline Leavitt put it today, a crackdown on homelessness. And it's not just throwing the homeless in jails or prisons. It's about getting them the help that they so desperately need.
The Metropolitan Police Department, with the support of the new federal agencies who have been surging on the streets of the District of Columbia, are going to enforce the laws that are already on the books here in Washington, D.C. For far too long, these laws have been completely ignored, and the homelessness problem has ravaged the city. So D.C. Code 22-1307 and D.C. Municipal Regulation 24-100 give the Metropolitan Police Department the authority to take action when it comes to homeless encampments. So homeless individuals will be given the option to leave their encampment, to be taken to a homeless shelter, to be offered addiction or mental health services, and if they refuse, they will be susceptible to fines or to jail time. Again, these are pre-existing laws that are already on the books. They have not been enforced, which is part of the reason for this federalizing of the National Guard to bring in this assistance for law enforcement. While we are targeting criminals and trying to remove criminals off of the streets, we also want to make DC safe and beautiful, and that involves removing mentally disturbed individuals in homeless encampments as well.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is just common sense. And that was your daily Trump date for today. A look back at all the things that happened on your behalf while you were working. This morning, when the CPI numbers came out, it was downright hilarious to watch CNN be so shocked to report that inflation was actually going down.
Look at the key categories that we always look at: energy, food, and shelter. Energy fell by 1.1%. That was largely driven because of gas prices falling in the month of July by 2.2%. Look at that food. I mean, this is where people spend their money, right? Food every single day. Food flat, 0%, and actually down at the grocery store by 0.1%.
Now, the big question here is, of course, whether or not this is going to lead to a rate cut when the Federal Reserve meets next in September. President Trump was out on Truth Social today calling for a lawsuit against the Fed, demanding immediate rate cuts. The market doesn't seem to care about when those rate cuts come, so long as they do come. What is rather amazing to me, though, is that Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has been wrong every single step of the way. Here he is in June saying that every serious economist has told him that President Trump's policies on tariffs are going to lead to inflation.
Every forecaster you can name who is a professional forecaster with adequate resources and forecasts for a living is forecasting pretty significant. Everyone that I know is forecasting a meaningful increase in inflation in coming months from tariffs, because someone has to pay for the tariffs. And it will be someone in that chain that I mentioned, between the manufacturer, the exporter, the importer, the retailer, ultimately somebody putting it into a good of some kind, or just the consumer buying it, and all through that chain, people will be trying not to be the ones who pick up the cost. But ultimately, the cost of the tariff has to be paid.
Now, do I need to remind you who the chairman of the Federal Reserve was, who was telling us that inflation was transitory during the Biden administration, believing the lies of another former Federal Reserve Chair, Janet Yellen, Biden's Treasury Secretary? Inflation is transitory. We don't see out of control inflation. Powell was far too late to raise interest rates when inflation reached 40-year highs within the first 5 months of Biden taking office, after injecting an unnecessary $1 trillion worth of stimulus into an already recovering economy and making it far easier for people to remain on unemployment instead of going back into the workforce when we desperately needed the recovery of the global supply chain to get increasingly scarce goods to people who had a much higher demand. That is the classic definition of inflation. Too few goods, being chased by too many dollars. There was an artificial influx of dollars in the form of Biden's government stimulus, and that's what it was. It was primarily government stimulus. Checks were being written to state and local governments, all sorts of governmental agencies, connected businesses, that sort of thing, in addition to the $1,400 direct stimulus to Americans. But when all of a sudden government has all of these checks to cash and all of this money to spend, it's competing with the private sector. It's competing with private individuals and businesses for the same resources. If there isn't a dramatic increase in the production of those resources, inflation necessarily results. And inflation did. We got up to 9% year over year. And for all 4 years of the Biden presidency, inflation was a massive problem. We never had deflation, the likes of which that we're seeing under President Trump. And every single economist that the left loves to cite, that Jay Powell was talking about back in June, is wrong now about the impact of Trump's tariffs, just as they were wrong back in 2021 about the impact of President Biden's dramatic increase in government spending. That was inflationary. While tariffs traditionally were inflationary, and of course, the long-term verdict is still out, but in the short term, it is beyond apparent that they are not having a massive inflationary impact because, at least for now, importers are eating the cost because they don't dare raise prices because we have so much competition for American dollars. The American marketplace is built on the idea of free market capitalism, correct? The idea that the best products for the best prices competing in a free and fair market will be the ones that win. If you can't compete on price because you have to pay increased import taxes, i.e. tariffs, and your competitors are just going to eat those, dramatically giving you a disadvantage, you're going to have to follow suit. That's the difference between now and tariffs back at the turn of the century, or even tariffs in the 1950s and 1960s. The prevalence of nearly limitless options for the same product. You might remember Bernie Sanders very famously saying, well, why do Americans need 50 different brands of toothpaste? I went to the Soviet Union, he said, and they only had 1 or 2 brands of toothpaste. Well, because some people like Colgate, some people like Crest, some people like peppermint flavor, some people like spearmint, kids like bubble gum. Sometimes they want to get the SpongeBob brand toothpaste. Sometimes they might want Scooby-Doo. Choice is enrichment. We are richer for having more options. The more options that we have for everything and anything, the better we all are. You can't just count wealth in terms of the number of dollars you have. You have to count it in what your dollars can purchase. For the past 4 years, we were all poorer because of Joe Biden and his merry band of socialists' mismanagement of the economy. Now we're told by those exact same people that Donald Trump is going to cause an inflationary nightmare because of his policies. Well, all we've seen for the first 5 months of the Trump administration is inflation getting under control, but a Federal Reserve that is far too obstinate for its own good. You're listening to the Dan O'Donnell Show. It is conservative thought, not just talk.
From the Lynch GM Superstore in Burlington Total Traffic Center.
Southbound lanes now closed for crash cleanup on Howell right at the airport. Northbound 4145 just past the Washington County line. You got flooding blocking the right lane. I'm Kevin Henry. That's your latest Total Traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Milwaukee County Zoo.
A la carte at the zoo, presented by Meyer, is back August 14th to the 17th. Enjoy live music from Philip Phillips, Los Lonely Boys, and Low Cash, plus great food and wild sights. Get tickets at MilwaukeeZoo.org or save at Tri-City National Bank.
Hey, Dan O'Donnell here. Summer's here. Is your home ready for the sunshine? At Bayview Shade and Blind, they've been helping Wisconsins stay cool and in style since 1926. From custom shades and blinds to beautiful draperies and shutters, they'll help you beat the heat and elevate your space. They're a third-generation, family-owned business, and they take the time to understand your needs. This summer, appointments are filling up fast, so don't wait. Call Bayview Shade and Blind today. Bayview Shade and Blind, sharing a little sunshine from their family to yours.
It's one of the hottest topics when it comes to finance and your money. The One Big Beautiful Bill. If you haven't read it, we don't blame you. It's 900 pages with 400 just for tax provisions. Not exactly light reading. You know who has read it? Annex Wealth Management. That's where Instant Insight webinars come in. They're designed to provide clarity for today's hot topics. Get up to speed fast. Check out the full Instant Insight schedule at annexwealth.com/events. Unbiased advice from a fee-only fiduciary. Find out more at annexwealth.com.
At Advent, we help sleep apnea sufferers avoid the CPAP machine by getting your nose and throat working with our unique Advent approach that you won't find elsewhere.
Tune in every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. as Ellen Becker Investment Group highlights local people and organizations who are using their time and their talents to give back to make a difference in our community. Milwaukee's philanthropic community. Visit ellenbecker.com to learn more.
Catering to all who appreciate quality installation, a great value, and the finest windows and doors. Your clear choice for more, Lisbon Storm Screen and Door. Find us at lisbonstorm.com.
Your clear choice for more, Lisbon Storm Screen and Door.
For more information about contests on News Talk 1130 WISN, go to newstalk1130.com/rules.
Make News Talk 1130 WISN your number one preset on our free iHeartRadio app, powered by Gruber Law.
One call, that's all.
Injured?
Remember, one call, that's all.
iHeartRadio is the easy-to-use app for music and radio. Download the free iHeartRadio app today.
Inside information, outsider's perspective. Stay informed with Sean Hannity, weeknights 6 to 9 on WISN.
One thing I absolutely love is all of the people who have been wrong about pretty much every financial thing for, well, ever since the Marxist revolution in the Soviet Union in 1970. Even before that, telling us that what President Trump is doing is going to dramatically spike inflation. The same inflation that they told us was transitory. I'm talking, of course, about the socialist Democrats who are all going gaga over Zohran Mamdani, the Democrat nominee for New York mayor. Do you know what his big economic idea is that everyone is just going nuts over? Taking over grocery stores.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day, depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you.
All right. I want show of virtual hands to all the lefties listening to me right now. Who thinks that's a great idea? Government-run grocery stores. There won't be any price gouging for meat or for produce. The government will take over the grocery stores and they will pass the savings on to you, right? Right? Just sounds, it's a good idea. You can't trust those evil capitalists over at Piggly Wiggly. Piggly, because they're so greedy. That's why we need the government to run the grocery stores. Well, there was a government-owned and nonprofit-run grocery store in Kansas City. I say was because this morning it shut down. A note taped to the door says, unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances beyond our control, we are no longer at this time able to serve the residents of the community. It has always been our dream and passion to provide quality products and services in a safe family environment. At this time, unfortunately, we are unable to do that. Do you know what the unforeseen circumstances were? The fact that all their shelves were bare for weeks because the government is not capable of efficiently or even competently running a grocery store. But these are the same people who are telling you that Donald Trump, billionaire businessman, has no idea what he's doing on the economy and that it's impossible for him to get prices under control. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
In January, when this president showed up to the White House, the 6-month annualized core inflation rate was 3.7%. Today, 6 months later, the 6-month annualized core inflation rate is 2.4%. So we are trending in the right direction. Moving forward, since President Trump took office, for another 6 months, inflation will be tracking at 1.9%. At this trajectory, you look at grocery prices, they fell, energy prices fell, fuel oil fell, ship fares fell, propane fell, butter, margarine, eggs, non-prescription drugs. You go through the list of items that are falling. And then I would also point to that report this morning showing that small business optimism has reached a 5-month high. So look, we inherited an economic mess from the previous administration, but this administration is focused on fixing it every day. And part of that is signing the largest tax cuts into law to put more money back into the pockets of these small business owners.
So here you have one political philosophy that says, all right, we're going to cut taxes on both individuals and corporations, and we're going to put more money in the hands of the private sector. You have another side that says we're going to take over the grocery stores. We are seeing in real time which economic philosophy is the correct one. And it's no real surprise because that has been the correct one since it was first introduced. Since the gradual sunsetting of the old feudal system, where noble lords would own parcels of land and serfs would work them in exchange for protection from the lord, once we started to have a more free economic system in Great Britain and France and Europe and across the globe, once we had the rise of mercantilism, once we had the rise of merchants being able to go into business for themselves and have a profit motive to make as much money as humanly possible, with governments there to regulate them, yes, but not to unjustly take a portion of their earnings and seize it for themselves, we have seen which economic system works. For decades, there were two competing economic systems working against one another: Soviet-style communism and American-style capitalism. One is long vanished from the earth. The other is producing more billionaires and millionaires and lifting untold millions of people out of poverty every single year. It is the economic system that even the avowed communists in China have had no choice but to emulate. Capitalism and free markets work. And I will admit, while I am a free trader at heart and believes ultimately tariff rates should be zero, I am understanding now in real time the benefit of President Trump's tariff regime, not just in getting other countries to get their tariff and non-tariff trade barriers down to something closer to zero, closer to what America has in terms of non-tariff trade barriers, but also in curbing and affecting behavior. Do you think it's a coincidence that Donald Trump has been able to broker so many peace agreements? Do you think it's just a random thing that all of these nations are just because they like him so much, they're coming to the bargaining table because of Trump's charm? Maybe it's his golden orange skin, his beautiful blonde hair. They see him as like a Greek god. No, it's because he is leveraging America's trade relationship with those countries in order to bring them to the bargaining table and to resolve disputes between the United States and them or disputes among themselves. The most recent example, Armenia and Azerbaijan. Do you think it's just, well, Donald Trump is a great negotiator and he's just an expert on Armenian international politics? No, it's because he's saying to these countries, all right, you want a more favorable trade deal with the United States? Get your you-know-what figured out. He's doing the exact same thing with India and Pakistan, and he is attempting to do the exact same thing, and I'm willing to wager, even as he is downplaying expectations with this big meeting in Alaska on Friday between himself and Vladimir Putin, he's doing the exact same thing. Even in public, we're seeing the secondary tariffs. India is being slapped with massive tariffs because they're still buying Russian oil. All of this, Trump understands, is about leverage. He understands the access to the American free market is the single greatest negotiating tool and the single greatest non-weapon weapon that the United States has. For pretty much our entire history, no president has been willing to wield that weapon like Trump has. And so far, the results undeniably speak for themselves. 7 peace deals and counting, and inflation that is nowhere near what the doomsayers, or panicans, as he put it, were predicting back on Liberation Day. Tariffs are a great means to a free trade and peaceful, prosperous end. And so long as he continues to wield them in the incredibly efficient way that he has been over the past 4 months, I'm totally on board. You're listening to the Dan O'Donnell Show, a tour de force of truth. And guess what? It's coming right back in just a minute.
Now, here's traffic from Tri-City National Bank, your hometown bank. Call the Tri-City Total Traffic Tip Line at 414-944-5111.
Southbound 4145, you got 22 minutes from Good Hope down to the Zoo. Delays breaking after Capitol. Northbound delays Mayfair to past Capitol. 15 back up to Good Hope. Then flooding block in the right lane up at the County Line Road. I'm Kevin Henry. That's your latest total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. At Lowe's, pros save big every day on trusted brands like Whirlpool. And now, Lowe's is the exclusive home improvement retailer for the Whirlpool water treatment product line. Shop trusted brands like Whirlpool and more in store and online.
You, Las Vegas, and the best musical artists on the globe. Sounds delightfully combustible, right? Win a trip for 2 to the iHeartRadio Music Festival presented by Capital One. 3 times each weekday. Text in a keyword and you might be a winner in the nationwide iHeartRadio Music Festival Flyaway Contest. Also in the prize package, $1,000.
The iHeartRadio Music Festival Flyaway Contest is sponsored locally by the friendly experts at Holiday Automotive in Fond du Lac. With 1,300 vehicles in one place, it's worth the trip. HolidayAutomotive.com.
Hi, it's Jay. Let's talk about the roof on your home. A lot of you will need to replace your roof this summer, but be forewarned, there are roofing companies out there that skip over the most important part of the process, the attic ventilation. If your attic doesn't have proper air circulation, it can cause problems like mold and wood rot, leaks in the winter, not to mention higher AC bills in the summer. This is one of the reasons I recommend Semperfi Roofing to my listeners. Their process begins with a free 21-point roof inspection that includes a thorough inspection of your attic. They know that if the ventilation isn't right, the roof will be built on a shaky foundation. Every Semperfi roof comes with a well-thought-out attic ventilation plan, and that's why they can offer a 50-year leak-free guarantee on every roof they install. Money-saving discounts and financing incentives are available. Call for your free 21-point roof inspection and estimate today, 262-600-2910, or book an appointment online at semperfiroofing.com.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry. Semperfi.
Bob from Redefined Realty here. I'd written my own ads for 20 years.
Creative genius. Here. Same. Well, Einit's ads and 100 other businesses' ads
Writing your own ads, you kind of get stuck repeating the same message, different words, but the same perspective.
Before introducing Easy Home Bidder, Bob came to iNet to brand his brainchild, MLS Listing Backed by Auction. It's brilliant. MLS guarantees the home is found. Auction guarantees the highest sale price. Period.
iNet branded it, wrote our story, knocked our marketing out of the park. When you think of selling your home, you know MLS and auction together is the right choice.
Redefined also benefits from unparalleled radio buying power, industry influence, and extracurricular enhancement of being part of the iNet community. More than 1,000 businesses working together for each other's successes.
Websites, branding, design, video, and radio. iNet is improving the economy one business at a time.
iNetDishWeb.com.
CreativeGeniusMarketing.com.
Buyers, sellers, real estate for winners. RedefinedRealty.com.
Josh from Infinity here. The exterior remodeling industry is notorious for wild price disparities and hidden costs. Infinity has revolutionized the exterior remodeling experience. Our custom-built app is your window into our world of clear, accurate pricing.
MJ here. No more guesswork. No more unpleasant surprises. Every detail, all materials are clear for you to see. Absolute pricing transparency makes Infinity the most trusted roofing and exterior remodeling company in the Midwest.
We built Infinity on a foundation of integrity. More than installing roofs, siding, and windows, Infinity installs peace of mind, building lifelong relationships with our customers.
Infinity's proprietary app is an extension of our commitment, providing exact line item pricing, something unheard of in roofing and exterior remodeling.
Infinity's unmatched buying power saves you money. We pay less, you pay less. Infinity provides multiple budget options real time. Everything is at your fingertips, including financing options before we leave your home.
Warranted, guaranteed quality, installing peace of mind. InfinityRoofing.com.
I'm Dan Voss from Cut and Go. Ugly and depressing and trees killed off by emerald ash, oak wilt, and Dutch elm disease are dangerous for friends and loved ones, even a potential liability. Slowly rotting, left-standing hardwood trees can weigh tens of thousands of pounds. Even seemingly smaller branches can weigh tens, even hundreds of pounds. With Cut and Go, there is no reason to risk injury or property damage. Live trees in precarious placement for an arborist to remove over homes, garages, commercial buildings, luxury landscapes are easily and safely laid on the ground by Cut and Go's NCCER crane-operated certified remote control automobile mounted articulating crane grapple saw operators. You can save big money and stock up on firewood by having Cut and Go put your trees on the ground for you to clean up or have a bonfire or split firewood, or we can take it all with us when we leave. A tons of trees movement. Cut and Go trees.com. That's CUTNGO trees.com. Once again, that's cutandgotrees.com.
Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and if you want to do business with a company that actually stands for something, switch to Pure Talk. I did. Sure, I appreciate being on America's most dependable 5G network with unlimited talk and text for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is Pure Talk's commitment to our military and to our skilled workforce. That matters to me. Save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Injured? Call Gruber Law.
One call, that's all.
No radio handy? No problem. Listen to WISN's live audio stream 24/7 via the web. Just click on the Listen Online tab at newstalk1130.com. Conservative thought. Not just talk. This is the Dan O'Donnell Show.
We are following some breaking news. The Texas House Democrats are going to return to the state for Governor Greg Abbott's second special session. The state Senate has already passed a new map that will be in effect for the midterm election next year. It is expected to add 5 Republican House seats in the House of Representatives. ABC 13 in Houston says Democrats believe they've accomplished their mission by killing the first special session and by raising national awareness about the mid-decade redistricting effort. I'm struggling to see what exactly was accomplished. Okay, so they were derelict in their duty for the first special session that ended. Now there's a second special session, and they're going back to pass the exact same map that they fled the state to stop. They also now have to face the consequences from the sergeant at arms for failure to obey a call to the House. That's something that pretty much every state, including here in Wisconsin, you do have to answer. For example, in Wisconsin, do you remember when Governor Evers a few years back when he still at least pretended to have some control over state government, and he would call these special sessions on gun control or whatever, and Republicans would actually gavel in a special session and then they'd gavel out 13 seconds later. And I actually kept track and I tried to get them to beat their record every time. And I swear Assembly Speaker Robin Vos was listening to me, because every time those times got shorter and shorter and shorter for gaveling in and gaveling out those special sessions. It is a law. You don't get to not report for duty. So it's entirely possible, and I'll admit I'm not entirely sure what the penalties would be under Texas law, but now that they are back, they are subject to the jurisdiction of the sergeant at arms and potentially the Abbott administration for this dereliction of duty. In terms of what's going to happen now, it's almost certain that as soon as Texas Republicans pass these new maps, that Democrats are going to further gerrymander their states. Well, what that's going to do is to trigger other Republican states. In fact, Ron DeSantis down in Florida has already said, okay, if California and if New York and if Illinois want to redraw their districts midway through the decade, we're going to do so too, and to make our state more Republican, triggering the great redistricting wars of 2025. The big problem for Democrats, as I have said for at least a week and a half to 2 weeks, while the Democrats have been out of the state, Democrats really have nowhere to go in these states. There are 9 different Democrat-controlled states that don't have a single Republican congressman. Now, it is true that there are a number of Republican states that don't have a single Democrat congressman. I believe the number is 6 to 7. Most of those states, North Dakota, South Dakota, Alaska, Wyoming, they only have one congressional representative. These are very small states. So they have the unique position of having more senators, 2, than they do congressional representatives at 1. There are also a number of other Republican states that only have 2 congressional representatives. Well, it's pretty difficult to gerrymander 2 congressional districts. You just split the state in 2. There's no other way to do it. Democrat states, though, like Massachusetts, which is probably the prime example here, have 9 congressional districts, but 0 Republican districts. How exactly, which is why we thought it was endlessly hilarious when last week the governor of Massachusetts stood up there and said, well, if Texas does this gerrymander, we're going to have no choice but to respond in kind. How? Exactly. How could you possibly gerrymander your maps anymore? There are 52 congressional seats in Texas. That still boggles my mind. That's actually down from 55 during the last census period, 2010 to 2020. 52 seats in California. 40 of them are controlled by Democrats. In the 9 most gerrymandered congressional states by Democrats, they enjoy a 6-to-1 advantage. They have 93 of a possible 110 congressional seats. When you have a 40-to-12 majority in the California congressional delegation, how exactly can you go any further? Same thing with Illinois. Illinois, widely regarded as the single worst gerrymandered state. And in fact, our good friend Joe Handrick has some analysis that it's not just proportional representation that Dems love to talk about when they get into whether or not a state is gerrymandered. It's also the way that the district lines are drawn. Well, Illinois has 17 congressional districts. 14 of them are controlled by Democrats. How can you possibly gerrymander that any further? I'm sure if you wanted to draw even squigglier snake-like districts, you probably could get to a 17-0 shutout. But beyond that, and this notion that somehow only Republicans would dare to do mid-district or mid-decade redistricting is disproven by the fact that New York just last year, February of 2024, they did mid-decade redistricting and actually gerrymandered themselves an additional Democrat pickup and gerrymandered 3 safe districts that in a big Republican year, which 2024 most definitely was, might have been Republican gains. They saved 3 Democrat seats and they actually increased their congressional total by 1. Now they're all terrified that Republicans might dare to do what Democrats have been doing for decades. I myself have been a big opponent of gerrymandering in any of its forms, but quite frankly, I don't care what these states do. Democrats have been doing this for decades. They were trying to do mid-decade redistricting here in Wisconsin. In fact, they got away with it with the Wisconsin Supreme Court in late 2023. They get a state Supreme Court ruling December of 2023, right before the Christmas holiday, so nobody would be paying attention to what it was that they were doing. Seriously, the Friday afternoon, right before Christmas the following Monday. Who do you suppose was paying attention to what was going on in state government on that afternoon? Pretty much nobody besides me. That's exactly right, producer Jeff. 2024, Republicans in the state legislature had no other choice but to sign Governor Evers' horribly gerrymandered maps. Don't just take my word for the fact that they were gerrymandered. Take the United States Supreme Court's word that one of the districts, at least one of the districts, I believe it might have been 1 or 2, when the maps actually went up to the U.S. Supreme Court in 2022, the Supreme Court said no, districts around Milwaukee constituted an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. So even though the state Supreme Court selected Evers' maps over the state legislature's maps because they were gerrymandered according to the U.S. Supreme Court, they had to go with the legislature's maps. They challenged them again when the composition of the Wisconsin Supreme Court changes, so they get a liberal on the court in Janet Protasewicz, who had spent the entire campaign promising to overturn the maps, saying, and I quote, "The maps are rigged." They finally did so and mid-decade redistricted. But yet now I have to hear every Democrat in the state of Wisconsin saying, oh, it's terrible that Texas does the same thing. Give me a break. You could not possibly be more disingenuous in that. We will name the unsung hero of the day when the Dan O'Donnell Show returns in just a second.
From the Lynch Chevrolet of Kenosha Total Traffic Center.
Got some heavy delays, 43 southbound starting up at Keefe, continuing down to the Marquette. 794 southbound after Lincoln Memorial. You got an accident that's blocking the right lane. Some debris on the road there as well. I'm Kevin Henry. That's your latest Total Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's. Score a Wendy's sausage, egg, and cheese, bacon, egg, and cheese, or honey buddy biscuit for just $1. Pick just one or pick all 3. For just $1 each, you literally can't go wrong. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Limit 5 qualifying items per transaction. Not valid in a combo while supplies last.
Welcome back to Ask Hasselus.
I believe in aliens, ghosts, and UFOs, but I don't believe Hasselus Mattress is employee-free.
It's true. Give our mattresses a try with no pushy sales guy.
Do these mattresses come from Area 51?
We're talking big names like Sealy Posturepedic and Beauty Rest.
Who's supporting you? The Illuminati?
If you need support, through Monday, get a free adjustable base with any new mattress.
That's what the lizard people told you to say.
Find an employee-free showroom near you at Hasselus.com.
When it's 94 degrees inside and you've melted to the couch.
And a dog has claimed the fridge.
And the ice cubes have melted themselves out of misery.
And you've started naming your sweat beads?
Then it's officially time to call Capital. We offer same-day air conditioning service 7 days a week.
And for a limited time, all our AC service calls are free when we make the repair.
Just call Capital. We'll bring back the brrr.
Old-fashioned service you can't go wrong. Call CapitalCares.com.
Dan O'Donnell here. It's This Week with Annex Wealth Management. I'm joined by the chief economist at Annex, Brian Jacobson. And Brian, another deadline extension for China on a trade deal. This, as a number of agreements have already been reached, but big-time tariffs issued against several other countries, including India, secondary tariff on Russia. All in all, what is the impact of all of this stuff?
Yeah, well, so far, the market has been absorbing it pretty well. I think that we really walked away from the cliff of April 2nd, showing those big numbers on that placard in the Rose Garden, and the numbers have come down. So we're right now, if all the tariffs go into place, including the bigger ones on India of 50%, which is that, as you said, secondary tariff on Russia, because it's about buying Russian oil, we would actually be looking at about 15%, kind of an all-in average tariff rate. And you'd actually have to go back to 1935 to get to that sort of level. However, we have seen businesses have yet somehow been able to remain profitable.
Is that going to continue? I mean, obviously, American businesses are resilient, but how long can the American consumer not pay the ultimate price for these tariffs?
Well, that's really the million-dollar question here. About 80% of the tariffs seem to be passed through on small items like food, like bananas, coffee, things like that. But about 0% so far on autos. That might move up to 20%. So the tariff-induced inflation is likely to be a process, and there's really nothing mechanical about it. It really depends upon the competitive dynamics of the industries for the products that consumers buy.
To figure out how all of this impacts you, head to annexwealth.com. For Brian Jacobson, chief economist at Annex, I'm Dan O'Donnell. This has been This Week with Annex Wealth Management.
So the Donahos invited us to dinner.
Hang on, honey. Hello?
Hi, this is Lori from First American Bank.
Whoa, honey, it's the bank. Listen to how real this AI voice sounds.
Hello?
Yes, hello. I'm calling about your First American Bank home equity line of credit application.
That is free.
Right? What do I press for? Representative.
Oh, you don't press anything. I'm a real person.
Now it's claiming to be a real person.
Wow. Sir, along with First American Bank's best loan deals in town, we pride ourselves on providing impeccable personal service. That's why you get me, a real-life specialist, to help you every step of the way with your loan. Isn't that more useful than passing you off to an artificial intelligence chatbot?
What's 2 times 2?
4.
Who created the Dewey Decimal System?
Melville Dewey.
Limburger sandwich or cheese curds?
Oh, you're not dragging me into that one.
First American Bank, the bank that does more for your money. Visit firstambank.com or call us at 262-577-2400. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Your home cleaning friend, it's Edelman again. Edelman.
40 years ago, being informed was about reading the newspaper and watching the nightly news. Now, with information coming at you at the speed of light, being truly informed is a complex proposition, a more comprehensive process. At WISN, our show hosts frame stories, issues, and topics with both facts and unique analysis, and that leaves you with a richer understanding of the world around you. It's the perfect blend of information and insight. Stay informed all day, every day on WISN.
Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour here on the Dan O'Donnell Show, your chance to win a trip for 2 to Las Vegas for our iHeartRadio Music Festival. You get 2 nights hotel stay, ground transportation, and tickets to both nights of the festival, September 19th and 20th. You'll see artists like Tim McGraw, Maroon 5, Sammy Hagar, Bryan Adams. You will also get a $1,000 gift card if you are our lucky winner. We've already had one here on the Dan O'Donnell Show. Looking for number 2 coming up right after the 5 o'clock news. The Madison Metropolitan School District just approved, they just got voters to approve $600 million in referendum money. Guess what their big focus now is? That's right. Salary increases. We'll get to that coming up. Also, one of the other poorly run government agencies in Wisconsin, the Milwaukee County Department of Transportation. There is apparently reporting out by the Journal Sentinel that they knew about a $10 million budget shortfall long before it became a crisis and was first publicly known back in June. We'll get into that and much, much more in the 5 o'clock hour here on the Dan O'Donnell Show. Right now, though, it's time to name the unsung hero of the day, brought to you by Blue Line Cleaning Services, residential and commercial cleaning done by professionals.
They're off to find the hero of the day.
No shortage of unsung heroes in the wake of the flooding and 1,000-year rainstorm over the weekend. And in fact, yesterday, we named everyone who was helping out their neighbors and just doing what they could for their fellow man as our unsung heroes of the day. Today, though, courtesy of today's TMJ4's Instagram page, we are going to name the members of the St. Francis football team who were helping to clear debris and haul away flood-damaged items an hour before their practice this morning. The video posted to the Instagram page shows the high schoolers decked out in boots and gloves, and some are wearing masks because of the air quality issues, hauling away some heavy items for people in West Allis, getting a bit of an extra workout before the official start of practice earlier today. Congratulations to the St. Francis community. You have got a good group of kids on your football team. They are your unsung heroes of the day. It still boggles my mind just how quickly some of those rivers flooded, just how fast the river levels rose. We told you, courtesy of jsonline.com at the beginning of the show, 8 p.m. on Saturday night, the Menominee River in Wauwatosa was at less than 2 feet. By 10 p.m., it had risen to more than 10 feet, 8 feet in 2 hours. How about the KK River, the Kinnickinnick River in Bayview? It doubled in height between 7 and 9 p.m., peaking at more than 17 feet yesterday morning. That is a new record. How about the Menominee in Menominee Falls? Grew to 3 times its typical height in just a couple of hours. It eventually did crest Monday morning. You are listening to the Dan O'Donnell Show, back with a chance at $1,000 plus a trip to Vegas after the news.
All programs on News Talk 1130 WISN are broadcast through the NX Wealth Management Studios. NX Wealth Management. Know the difference. Listen to Clay and Buck weekdays 11 to 2 on News Talk 1130 WISN Milwaukee. And make WISN the #1 preset on your car radio and on the new iHeart app. Free never sounded so good.
Good afternoon. I'm Dave Michaels. A line of thunderstorms earlier this morning caused widespread power outages, especially in Milwaukee, Waukesha, and Jefferson County. It also brought more unneeded rain. Fox 6 meteorologist Stephanie Barkello.
Even Milwaukee at the airport, 0.6 of an inch of rain. And then we got the strong wind from this morning's strong storms too, anywhere from 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts in a handful of communities.
Both Marquette University High School and Wauwatosa East are making plans to open up their football season on the road after there was significant damage to the stadium's turf at Hart Park in Wauwatosa. And President Trump may soon get the interest rate cut he's been asking for from the Fed. That's because July's inflation report was better than expected. The Labor Department shows the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, which is a general measure of how much people are paying for goods and services, and a key inflation indicator was up 0.2% from June. Checking the holiday automotive of Fond du Lac Sports Scoreboard, Brewers go for their 11th straight win tonight. They're home to play the Pirates at American Family Field. From the Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin News Center, I'm Dave Michaels on Wisconsin's most listened to radio station, News Talk 1130 WISN.
Here's the latest forecast presented by AdventKnows.com from the Fox 6 weather experts.
Scattered thunderstorms possible this evening, clearing overnight just in time for the peak of the Perseid meteor shower between 3 and 4 in the morning. Mostly sunny and less humid on Wednesday with a high around 80. I'm Fox 6 Chief Meteorologist Tom Walks.
This report is sponsored by Rapid Radios.
Stay connected when it matters most. Be prepared with Rapid Radio's walkie-talkies. With instant push-to-talk and LTE nationwide coverage, you can reach family and friends in any emergency. 100% private, no contracts, no hassle.
Stay safe. Order now at rapidradios.com.
Home is where it happens. The you had to be there stuff. The blink and you missed it stuff. The holiday mishaps, the first steps, the impromptu pillow forts. Your home is where the we'll always remember this stuff happens. That's why the local experts at True Stone Home Mortgage are here to make sure your home stuff can happen. Local experts, amazing options, and an on-time closing guarantee. It's true, because we're True Stone. Terms, conditions, and timing restrictions apply. Conventional purchase loans only. Visit truestone.org for details. Equal housing opportunity.
Catering to all who appreciate quality installation, a great value, and the finest windows and doors. Your clear choice for more. Lisbon Storm Screen and Door. Find us at lisbonstorm.com.
Your clear choice for more. Lisbon Storm Screen and Door.
This time of year can be tough on a number of areas in your home. This is Dan O'Donnell, and if you're struggling with any electrical issues, I recommend the superheroes at Current Electric. Chuck Smith, a Brookfield Central grad, started Current Electric over 40 years ago. His mission was to serve our community with integrity and quality, and has done that at Current Electric. If you need something as small as an outlet or switch repair or a whole home rewiring, call on the superheroes from Current Electric. Go to callcurrent.com.
You're great at protecting your own personal information. You probably even use things like two-factor authentication, strong passwords, VPN. But as much as you try to be in control of how your information is protected, there's lots of places that also have it. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every single second for identity threats. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock specialist is going to help solve the identity theft issues, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% off your first year with a promo code Beck at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Michaela's Mobile Spa, Michaela! Michaela got a quick business insurance quote from Progressive and chose from over 30 customizable coverages. Sure, it helps she's her only employee and does literally everything. But while others would rest on their laurels, Michaela was hard at work saving big. So take that, hypothetical other employee who doesn't exist. Be your own Michaela. See if you could save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage is not available in all states or for all vehicles and coverage selections.
BlueMountainExpress.com. We will improve your move statewide.
WISN. Big taxers, big spenders, political cronies, global warming alarmists, charlatans, liars, scam artists, and feeders at the public trough. The threats to your happiness are many, but that's where we can help. News Talk 1130 WISN. Our truth shall keep you free.
Kowal Investment Group, now Creative Planning, is a registered investment advisor. Now for your business report from Creative Planning. For informational purposes only, past performance is not indicative of future results.
Good afternoon. This is Anthony Priester with your closing business report. The major averages climbed higher today as Wall Street digested fresh inflation data. The consumer price index rose 2.7% on an annualized basis in July, just under the 2.8% estimated. Investors believe the tamer than expected report will lead to a rate cut next month. Elsewhere, shares of Hanes brand soared 27% after the Financial Times reported that the innerwear apparel company was nearing a deal to be acquired by Gildan for $5 billion. At the close, the Dow was up 483 points. The S&P 500 was up 72 points. The Nasdaq was up 296 points. From the Kowal Investment Group, now Creative Planning, I'm Anthony Priester.
Homes and vehicles are destroyed, and countless lives have been changed after floodwaters took over parts of our area.
It started flooding like the Titanic. There's no stopping it.
From Milwaukee to Washington County, people, they are dealing with waterlogged homes, waterlogged cars, and power outages as well.
All the neighbors have been very gracious to everyone who's been talking and willing to help, and so it's good to see that part.
Here's a little something to hopefully help out. If you have been affected by the floodwaters, we know you could use $1,000 right now. Heaven knows we all could. How about a trip for two to Las Vegas in a month and a half? Actually, a little more than a month, to just kind of take your mind off everything. We have got both on the way, up for grabs right now. iHeartRadio Music Festival Flyaway Contest, round trip airfare for two to Vegas. 2 nights hotel stay, ground transportation, tickets to both nights of the festival, plus $1,000 gift card. And all you need to do to enter this contest is to text the word music to 200-200. You have until 55 past this hour to send in your entry. Text the word music to 200-200. If you enter the contest, you will get a confirmation text and information. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. Again, the word is music. Text it to 200-200. Don't text it to 799-1130. That's our AdventNows.com talk and text line. If you want to react to something we said on the show, 414-799-1130 or 1-800-838-9476. You can also email me or find me on social media. I'm easy to find. Dan O'Donnell Show on Facebook, on X, on Instagram. We are streaming live. Watch the show on our YouTube channel as well, and subscribe to the Dan O'Donnell Show podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to podcasts. Voters in Madison approved $600 million in a school referendum in the November election. Two parts. $507 million, more than $500 million in a facilities referendum to improve facilities across the district. Also, a $100 million operational referendum. This was to improve education, right? Guess what the Madison School Board is actually going to use a portion of that money for? Just take a wild guess. Yeah, that's right. Raises for themselves. At a school board meeting last night, according to the Wisconsin State Journal, board members appeared to be at least open to the possibility of increasing their pay. I wish I was making this up. The Madison Metropolitan School District has one of the widest racial achievement gaps in the country, surpassed only by Milwaukee and a handful of other major cities. This story by Chris Rickard. A majority of Madison School Board members appeared to be in favor Monday of significantly boosting their pay and making themselves eligible for the district's employee health coverage. I actually took a look at what it is that school board members do. The answer? Not a whole lot. They attend 3 meetings per month, and that's pretty much it. For that, however, they believe that they should be allowed to make significantly more money. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what leftists do. This is just kind of how they operate. They get more money and they vote themselves more money. We saw the exact same thing, and I mean the exact same thing, with the city of Milwaukee. The city of Milwaukee, almost immediately after Act 12 passed a couple of years ago, voted to increase the mayor's pay, city council members' pay, appointed positions pay, like police chief, fire chief, other appointed positions. This is just how cities operate. Board members currently make $8,000 a year. President of the board makes $83,000 $100 per year. By way of comparison, that is significantly higher than other school board members from other big cities across the state. Now, as if this wasn't evidence enough that left-wingers, like the ones who control the City of Madison School Board and appear to be on the precipice of giving themselves more money now that taxpayers voted for money that they were promised was going to go to protecting and increasing the educational value that their students are seeing. In case you didn't think that was enough proof, we have got the Milwaukee County Transit System. You knew, at least you thought you knew, that there was a $10.9 million budget deficit that was first reported in June. According to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, a new timeline shows MCTS saw warning signs of a possible budget deficit as early as February after receiving reports of low productivity, overbilling from its paratransit provider, and excessive overtime. A report obtained by the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel shows MCTS's interim president and CEO, Sandra Kellner, provided the county board the timeline at its request, showing when the already fiscally troubled department first projected its multi-million-dollar shortfall ahead of one of the county's toughest budget years. In the wake of the deficit reveal, 2 members of the county's transit division have resigned, and the agency is facing an audit as well as an internal review carried out by the county's controller's office. MCTS is now expected to be over budget by roughly 6% this year due to unexpected overtime, a drop in passenger revenue, the cost to repair vehicles, as well as the paratransit vendor not meeting the contracted productivity target. The agency recently announced it has also lost $4 million through bus fare evasion. Let me repeat that. $4 million through bus fare evasion. What is that? Exactly what it sounds like. Someone gets on the bus. The social contract says you put your money in the little fare box. You pay for your ride. Well, in most communities, but really only certain parts of Milwaukee, the social contract is completely broken and people just don't pay their fares. $4 million worth per year. That's county supervisors. Now, this is a story that came out about a month ago. We're calling for an action plan. They called it a data-informed fare compliance strategy. This was from a press release on July 2nd. It's time for the culture of fare evasion on Milwaukee County buses to come to an end, Supervisor Sean Rowland in a statement. To improve Milwaukee County's financial health and to get Milwaukee County residents where they need to go, we have to have an efficient bus system, and this resolution is one step towards that vision. You know, we used to have a fare evasion action plan called arresting the people who don't pay the bus fare. But now, of course, we can't arrest them because A, there is a fear that if you call the sheriff's department or call the Milwaukee Police Department or whatever municipality you happen to be in, that someone will go nuts and start attacking the driver. And that actually is a very reasonable fear. But also, we don't want to assume that this person is just some criminal lowlife. Maybe they can't afford their fare. You see, it's a group of young males all getting on. We think that this group of young males who get on the bus and don't pay the fare while screaming and carrying on, they're actually young students, you see. who just have so much in student loan debt repayments because that evil Donald Trump canceled the loan forgiveness program by Biden, that we just need to turn a blind eye because they need to be focused on their studies. These are young scholars. They're going to grow up to be astronauts, you see. How about, hear me out, we actually enforce the laws that are on the books. We actually enforce violations of the social contract. Why is it that the overwhelming majority of people are able to follow society's basic laws? Now, producer Jeff just started working with me a couple of months ago. So you've probably never heard me talk about the shopping cart theory. Oh, you have. I talk about this so much because I think it is so perfect. It is so perfect a microcosm of society. The shopping cart theory is exactly what you might think it is. When you go shopping at a Walmart or at a grocery store, or whatever it is, what do you do with the shopping cart? Once you're done with it, you empty your groceries into the back of your car, and then what? Do you return the shopping cart to one of the little kiosks? Do you just sort of leave it? Do you push it as hard as you can to see if you can't hit a car going through the next lane of parking? Shopping cart theory says that if you return the cart to the kiosk, you are governable. You can exist in a civilized society. If you are the type of person who just leaves the shopping cart where your car was because you don't feel like walking 25 steps to return the shopping cart, you are ungovernable and you are unworthy of living in a civilized society. It's harsh, but it is true. Because returning the shopping cart is sort of the ultimate test of your fitness for societal belonging. There's no reward if you do it, and there's no punishment if you don't. Now, you might get a dirty look from somebody who is returning their cart, but that's it. You're never going to face a fine. You're not going to get a ticket. You're not going to get confronted. Although there is a guy who has gone viral. He calls himself the shopping cart cop. And he's this giant, like, intimidating dude. And I think he even speaks with a Russian accent. He'll say, "Why are you not returning that cart?" So unless you run into this guy, you're not going to face any sort of penalty, just as you're not going to get any sort of reward for doing the right thing. You just do the right thing because you understand. We all understand that that's what society expects. It's the social contract. There are those in society who are completely incapable of doing that. And fare jumping or turnstile jumping in cities that have subways like New York or Chicago, which has the L, those are people who are simply incapable of living in a civilized society. And this is where the broken windows theory of policing sort of comes into play. When you start enforcing these things, not only do you not have $4 million in unpaid bus fares because the lowlifes in a given community understand that there are no consequences. This is not shopping cart theory in its purest form here, because there is, or at least there should be, a penalty for not paying what is it now to ride on the bus? A couple of bucks? To pay a very minuscule fare, and so many people just get free bus passes anyway. It's unfathomable to me that we have a massive deficit now in the Milwaukee County Transit System budget, but yet we refuse to go after what we know is causing a massive shortfall, and that's the fact that people simply aren't paying for their rides on the bus. And the best we can come up with is, we need an action plan. Here's an action plan. Enforce the law. This is why so many people in Washington, D.C., even Democrats, there were a bunch of them apparently secretly texting Morning Joe Scarborough this morning saying, yeah, we're actually in favor of this because we're tired of people just refusing to act in a manner that is compatible with civilized society. Look, it's primarily Democrats or Democrat voting people who live in close proximity to the people who are shooting up downtown D.C., refusing to pay for their bus fare, and are apparently launching so many violent threats against drivers that we just stopped asking them to pay the fares, to the point where $4 million every year is going down the drain in people who just aren't doing what they're supposed to do. This is all tied together. And broken windows theory of policing says that when you enforce the little stuff like broken windows, vandalism, graffiti, that sort of stuff, and you actually make people pay the consequences of their misdeeds. I always tell this story. I actually got a broken windows style ticket in New York. I was in town. I won a National Edward R. Murrow Award. It was a prestigious broadcasting award. And it just so happened my old college roommate and his family were in New York at the exact same time. This is 2012. It was October of 2012. We were out. We hung out all night. We were at some bar in Greenwich Village, and we went outside because it was a beautiful night, and they had this little patio, and we didn't realize that it was closed because it was so late at night. And it was just in this back alley, and they had little tables, and we were sitting there and drinking a Corona or whatever it was. A couple of police officers walked up and actually gave me a ticket for having an open container of alcohol outside. Do you know what the fine was? Not even kidding. $10. I laughed at it. I was like, wait, do you have any idea what the fine is for open intoxicants back home? It's like $150. He goes, yeah, this is mostly, kind of laughed. He said, well, mostly we give these tickets to homeless people. And, oh, great. So I got, I paid online or whatever you had to do back then. I sent a check. I believe I just paid online with a credit card. Really simple to do. And the reason that they had this ticket was they didn't want vagrants outside drinking 40s in full view of people. As a result, it was, and the cop told me, and I actually did some subsequent research into this, and he said, look, we could make these $200 fines. Homeless people would never pay them. We're actually getting the fines paid, and we're changing behavior because it's a relatively minor fine. New York City at the time was in the process of a massive turnaround. I believe the mayor then was Bloomberg. Under Giuliani, who completely turned around the city through the broken windows theory of policing, and then Mayor Bloomberg, who turned into a liberal nut, but kept all of Giuliani's reforms, New York City went from one of the most dangerous towns in America to one of the safest big city in America by far. They backslid, of course, under Bill de Blasio, and then former police commissioners, the mayor now, Eric Adams, sort of went back a little bit to the broken windows theory of Giuliani and then Michael Bloomberg. But they proved with what became known as the New York miracle that works. Tourism to New York exploded. New York saw unprecedented boom times, even with 9/11 right in the middle of that. Because they understood that fare jumping, open intoxicants, that sort of stuff was no longer going to be tolerated. And when you start cracking down on this stuff, people start to say, oh, hey, wait a second. They're getting serious about enforcing every law. We'd better not commit the little crimes, and we'd really better not commit the big crimes. Well, guess what's happening in Milwaukee? Little crimes like fare jumping and big crimes like homicide have both gone up exponentially because word has gone out. We're just not enforcing any law. Dan O'Donnell Show, coming right back.
Now, here's traffic from Tri-City National Bank, your hometown bank. Call the Tri-City Total Traffic Tip Line at 414-944-5111.
Crash continues to close southbound Howell coming off the airport spur. 94 eastbound jam from Highway 100 to pass the stadium. Westbound delays from the Marquette to pass the stadium. I'm Kevin Henry, and that's your latest total traffic.
This report is sponsored by First Choice Heating and Cooling.
This heat is unbearable.
Keep your family comfortable with First Choice Heating. For a limited time, get $89 off your AC and heating tune-up. Milwaukee's trusted HVAC company, firstchoiceheating.com.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival, presented by Capital One, is back in Vegas.
T-Mobile Arena.
Streaming live only on Hulu. A weekend full of superstar performances. And keep listening for the next chance to win your way there.
Capital One is the proud presenting partner of iHeartRadio Music Festival, bringing great products, rewards, and services to its customers. What's in your wallet?
Shafty trial attorney Frank Crivello here. Folks, I'm Victor Harding. Frank is selected Best Lawyers 2024 Complex Litigation Lawyer of the Year.
More impressive is Victor Harding named Product Liability Attorney of the Year again for 2024.
It may sound boastful to mention these prestigious awards.
It's not boastful considering if you or someone you love is injured, you need to know two attorneys from the same personal injury firm being chosen by other lawyers and judges for these caliber of awards is very rare.
Heaven forbid you ever need an injury claim made on your behalf. If you do, the quality of your attorney and law firm will have a greater impact on the outcome than even the facts of your case.
Former clients, other lawyers, judges, law enforcement officers, and even insurance adjusters,
often our adversaries,
refer their family and friends to Warshawski because they know Warshawski will achieve maximum compensation.
Injured? It is about the money.
Warshawski.com.
That's Warshawski.com.
Let Tri-County Contracting take care of the outside of your home so you don't have to. Worry-free roofing, siding, and windows from Tri-County Contracting. Call us at 262-679-6100 or visit us online at tricountycontractingwi.com.
Make News Talk 1130 WISN your number one preset on our free iHeartRadio app. Powered by Gruber Law.
One call, that's all.
Injured?
Remember, one call, that's all.
Smart speakers get a whole lot smarter when they're playing News Talk 1130 WISN. Just ask Alexa or Siri to play WISN Radio and bask in the glow of insight and enlightenment.
Fast and accurate, fair and balanced. Milwaukee's home for Fox News Radio. News Talk 1130 WISN.
It's just maddening. $4 million in just unpaid bus fares. And they're wondering why there's suddenly a $10.9 million budget deficit for the Milwaukee County transit system. As if you thought you couldn't despise liberal leadership enough. Over in Madison, they passed $600 million worth of school referenda just so the school board can now pass raises for its members. They're also looking to dramatically increase both teacher and school bureaucrat salaries as well. This is what happens when you put left-wingers in charge of anything. Hey, do you remember when Adam Schiff kept saying that he saw evidence of collusion?
There is evidence of collusion. There's ample evidence of collusion. There is significant evidence, much of it in the public domain, on the issue of collusion.
Yes, that would be a potential form of collusion.
Have Democrats found any evidence of collusion?
Yes, we have.
I think you see the most palpable evidence of a collusion in terms of violating the Logan Act. That, to me, is direct evidence.
Do you have direct evidence of collusion with Russia?
Well, I think there was direct evidence in the emails from the Russians through their intermediary. I think the claims that there was no evidence of collusion have long since fallen away.
Now, of course, we know there was never evidence of collusion, but Schiff was on every single news program from pretty much January of 2017 until the exact moment in the spring of 2019 that the Mueller report concluded that there was no evidence of collusion, saying, yes, there was this evidence. Yes, there was Russian collusion. Well, last night, FBI Director Kash Patel declassified a whistleblower report that reveals that Schiff was leaking classified information in an effort to target Trump. This directly from the report. When working in this capacity, the whistleblower, whose name's been redacted for obvious reasons, was called to an all-staff meeting by Schiff. In this meeting, Schiff stated the group would leak classified information, which was derogatory to President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Schiff stated the information would be used to indict President Trump. The whistleblower said this would be illegal, and upon hearing his concerns, unnamed members of the meeting reassured the whistleblower that they would not be caught leaking classified information. The whistleblower was again approached about leaking classified information in a separate meeting by unnamed individuals. The whistleblower believed this activity to be unethical and treasonous. The whistleblower was concerned about the discussions and as a result reached out to contacts from his prior employment, also redacted. The employment for guidance on when to report this experience. These discussions led the whistleblower to contact the FBI regarding his concerns. The whistleblower had several conversations with two unnamed FBI agents related to the matter. Of course, under then FBI Director James Comey, nothing was ever done about this because, as we now know, Comey himself had no issues with allowing classified information, i.e. the Steele dossier, which was presented to President Trump, or at least President-elect Trump, under the guise of showing him what false intelligence looked like, but what was really an excuse to get that Steele dossier into the media bloodstream because it was now being used to brief the president. Nothing was ever done because Comey was in on this. Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, on the Schiff revelations today.
The president has already said he wants to see Adam Schiff held accountable for the countless lies he told the American people in relation to the Russiagate scandal. I brought Tulsi Gabbard out to this podium to talk to you about all of that. And this administration is taking accountability very seriously. As for this new FBI whistleblower report, I understand Kash Patel last night declassified a 302 FBI document showing that a whistleblower who is a Democrat, a career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intel Committee for more than a decade, repeatedly warned the FBI in 2017 that then Rep. Adam Schiff had approved leaking classified information to smear then President Donald Trump over the Russiagate scandal.
Now, this isn't the only bit of trouble that now Senator Schiff has found himself in. There's a special counsel, Ed Martin, who has been authorized to investigate both his and New York Attorney General Letitia James's potential mortgage fraud. At the very least, Schiff was misrepresenting information, calling a home that he was purchasing in Maryland, which he was only going to and living in part-time when his job took him to Washington, D.C. when Congress was in session. He was saying that was his primary residence when, of course, he was actually living in California, representing his district as a member of the House of Representatives. This is pretty clear evidence of what we sort of knew was going on, that Schiff, in his role as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, who was given access to classified information, was selectively leaking that in order to try to get an impeachment proceeding started against President Trump, if not, according to this whistleblower, to get him indicted. This is about as serious a crime as it gets. So, of course, it's being completely ignored and blacked out by the national press. You're listening to the Dan O'Donnell Show. We will be back with more after this.
Classical conservatism.
Contemporary style.
This is the Dan O'Donnell Show.
From the place you want to go, Lynch McGuanago Traffic Center.
High standing water on the road 4145 northbound near the Washington County line. It's blocking the right lane. Got a crash blocking the left lane southbound 4145 just past Good Hope. I'm Kevin Henry, and that's your latest total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Dan here. Stay cool and stylish this summer with Bayview Shade and Blinds. Since 1926, they've been helping Wisconsin homes shine with custom shades, blinds, drapery, and shutters. Appointments are filling up fast, so call Bayview Shade and Blind today.
I'm attorney Tom Grieve with Grieve Law. If you're charged with drunk driving, you're not just looking at a ticket. You're looking at a permanent mark on your record that can affect your career and your ability to rent a car or travel internationally, not to mention the classes you'll need to take or the ignition interlock device that you'll have to install. Your license will be revoked, and even with a work permit, you're one long meeting or traffic jam away from driving revoked and facing up to 1 year in jail. That's a lot more than just a ticket. And if you pay the ticket without a fight, you are agreeing to be on the hook for all of it. At Grieve Law, we believe one mistake shouldn't define your life. Our seasoned criminal defense attorneys focus on OWI cases with a track record of getting results. We examine your case, challenge field sobriety tests, scrutinize breathalyzer accuracy, and expose the weaknesses in the prosecution's case. If you have been arrested for an OWI, you're facing serious consequences. But with Grieve Law in your corner, you are far from facing them alone. Contact Grieve Law for your OWI defense. You are only guilty if you are convicted. GrieveLaw.com.
Be sure to listen to the Annex Wealth Management Investment Show Saturday mornings at 11 and Sunday afternoons at 1 on News Talk 1130 WISN. Annex provides its expertise to arm listeners with the knowledge and tools to invest wisely. Annex Wealth Management. Know the difference.
I'm Dave Brownsdorf, president of Flawless Flooring. It's true, there's nothing quite like the scent of freshly steam-cleaned, worn carpet other than a wet dog or cat's litter box. However, Flawless's customer satisfaction-driven, unprecedented growth pinched the Milwaukee metro flooring industry to the point major carpet companies are no more. We've added quality carpeting lines, becoming your true one-stop flooring shop. Flawless Flooring's New Berlin and Delafield showrooms feature virtually unheard of in the flooring industry, upfront, accurate pricing, including installation on every display. Know how much carpet, LVP, or modern laminate flooring you need? You can calculate exact pricing as you shop. Want to expand your existing hardwood flooring? Flawless's employee-only craftsmen strip existing flooring, install new hardwood, then finish old and new together for a perfect, looks all original floor. Lock in purchasing power of today's dollars for money you'll earn up to 21 months from now with Flawless's no money down, zero interest financing. Sensory under load, Flawless Flooring. FlawlessFlooringLLC.com. That's FlawlessFlooringLLC.com.
Monica, we've got to hand it to you.
You and the design team have outdone yourselves.
Are you talking about the One Collection?
Those rings say you are the one.
And they say it symbolically.
Describe the symbols.
Every ring in the One Collection should be presented with a special ritual.
What would that ritual be?
You pick up her left hand and you place a kiss on her ring finger.
Rick, you never told me about that part.
Then you show her the tiny red diamond, flush mounted inside the ring, that will forever be in contact with her finger.
Why is it red?
Because that's when the giver says to the one, wherever you go, my heart goes with you.
I give you this kiss. I give you my heart.
The red diamond is a secret symbol of that sacred moment.
The center diamond on the outside of the ring is for the whole world to see.
But the tiny red created diamond inside the ring is only for the two of them.
The One Collection of engagement rings is available exclusively at Kessler's.
To find the Kesslers nearest you,
visit KesslersDiamonds.com.
I'm Total Health's Jay Johnson, the Falls and New Berlin. Seed oils, the #1 source of calories in American diets, developed as engine fuel and industrial lubricants, only ended up in the food supply for profit. Seed oils cause arthritis, heart disease, metabolic syndrome, stroke, type 2 diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, and chronic illness. Medical doctors prescribe dozens of pharmaceuticals for life to treat symptoms of those diseases. Why don't they tell you to stop consuming poison? I'll tell you why. You sick is profitable. At Total Health, we teach eliminating seed oils from your diet improves true health and how you feel. Total Health finds the root cause of your fatigue, weight gain, brain fog, sleeplessness, then works with you, the whole you, eliminating symptoms and the chronic disease causing those symptoms. It's not theory. Relativity equals expertise plus execution is true. Total Health's holistic practitioners utilize proven science to help you feel and truly be the most helpful and well you. TotalHealthInc.com. That's TotalHealthInc.com.
Injured? Call Gruber Law.
One call, that's all.
The free iHeartRadio app has over 100 commercial-free stations waiting for you to explore right now, like 80s Rock Ride, featuring Van Halen, Billy Idol, Aerosmith, Def Leppard, and more for your summer road trips. Crank it up all summer. 80s Rock Rock. Commercial free 24/7. I stay for a white wedding. Just open the free iHeartRadio app and find your next summer preset now.
Teachers often make a difference in our lives or the lives of our kids. Here's a chance to do something great for a local public school teacher. Nominate him or her in the iHeartRadio Thank a Teacher powered by Donors Choose program. Nominated teachers will be in a random drawing to win $5,000 to stock their classroom with whatever they need. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers.
So I just looked out the window in our pristine studios on Howard Avenue in Greenfield, Wisconsin. It's raining. I am dead serious. Did someone in Southeast Wisconsin sell their souls in exchange for this incredible Milwaukee Brewers season? Is it just are we just going to get rain every single day that the Brewers are winning baseball games? Is this some sort of divine punishment? Is this karma for our baseball team being so freaking good over the past couple of, because I cannot remember a summer in which the weather has been this bad. 2008 was bad. You might remember that, of course, the draining of Lake Delton in the Wisconsin Dells, the home that was carried away by the river. We had extreme flooding in southeast Wisconsin and Madison, pretty much across the entire state. But it felt as though that was just the 1 month of June. Same thing with 2010. We had a big rainy month. It was one of the rainiest months on record. It feels like this entire summer has just been bad. Spring, too. We had a bit of a mild winter. We had the cold stretch. We had one big snowstorm, and we are just getting walloped this summer. I honest to goodness, 45 minutes ago, was the sun not shining? Did it not look gorgeous? I was texting my wife, hey, do you want to go out someplace with a nice patio? And of course, it's raining again. Hopefully that doesn't impact cleanup or recovery efforts from the storm over the weekend. Do you know who Delia Rodriguez is? She is a congressional representative who most recently became semi-famous over the internet for saying that she was a Venezuelan first and an American second. She is an immigrant. She is a very proud. She said this, of course, in Spanish. Well, she's back calling ICE a terrorist organization.
Well, Tom Homan, let me tell you, all over the country, we will continue to stand up for our rights, and we will continue to call out the terrorist organization that is ICE. Terrorist organization that is ICE.
This, unfortunately, is how a whole lot of leftists think about law enforcement. In fact, just today, I was watching an interview that members of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel editorial board did with Milwaukee's police chief, Jeffrey Norman. And there weren't any real usable cuts out of there, but one member of the editorial board, whose name I did not know, kept asking Norman, do you think ICE agents in Milwaukee have made it more difficult to do your job? And Norman was saying, look, I don't know. I guess. He was sort of hemming and hawing because as much of a lefty as Norman is, he's got to know, no, it really hasn't impacted his job. But sure enough, this led to a story, federal immigration action, a challenge on police, Milwaukee police chief says. Federal immigration action in Milwaukee has been met with concern and anxiety by some in Milwaukee's immigrant communities. Do you see how this sort of narrative is fomented? The media just completely creates this. Well, some are concerned and anxious about ICE. Now, would there also be some who are happy that ICE is coming to rid this city of criminal illegal aliens? It's weird how you never hear that story. Some in Milwaukee's immigrant community are glad that ICE is coming to help them out to remove the dangerous illegals who are committing crimes and victimizing them. It is so weird. On social media, rumors of ICE operations spread quickly on the city's street. ICE and other federal agency enforcement actions stirred fear. While those actions have lessened over time, they created a challenge for local police. Milwaukee Police Chief Jeffrey Norman told the Journal-Sentinel's editorial board on August 7th. I can hear some of the commentary coming from our public in regards to feeling, can you trust the law enforcement, Norman said. We have to do our outreach. We have to continue to make sure that we are reassuring. That's what he said. But the narrative is, oh, yes, it's posed a challenge. No, the same member of the editorial board, when he didn't ask the first time, he didn't answer the question the first time, re-asked the question. Well, would you say it's posing a challenge? He said, well, again, there's always the issue of trust in law enforcement, and I don't have data to back it up either way. I mean, you talk about pushing a narrative. Now, of course, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and its reporters and editorial members are never going to come right out and say, like Delia Rodriguez, ICE is a terrorist organization. But the narrative was there even before Norman ever opened his mouth to answer the question that ICE is making it more difficult for the Milwaukee Police Department to do its job. No, you know what's making it more difficult for the Milwaukee Police Department to do its job? The liberals who run the Milwaukee city government. The fact that the city of Milwaukee has not given a new contract to rank and file police officers, even as the police chief got himself a nice big fat raise as soon as Milwaukee got way more in shared revenue and sales tax collections, courtesy of the state passing Act 12 a couple of years ago. The rank and file officers, I would say not having a contract, not getting a raise in years and years and years would be a far bigger challenge. The fact that there aren't enough officers on the streets to actually patrol would be a far bigger challenge. Would it not? No, we're not talking about that, because the narrative is that somehow ICE agents doing their job in Milwaukee are causing distrust in the Milwaukee Police Department. Are the Green Bay Packers cooked? Some people think they are. See, I can set a narrative too.
Now, here's traffic from Tri-City National Bank, your hometown bank. Call the Tri-City Total Traffic Tip Line at 414-944-5111.
Southbound 4145 slowing from Good Hope down to Hampton and again from Burleigh down to the Marquette. And on to 4394 delays in pockets down to the KK River. 43 northbound tight from Fond du Lac up to Locust. I'm Kevin Henry. That's your latest total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Fab Tech Expo.
Hey Milwaukee, FabTech hits Chicago September 8th through the 11th, the largest trade show for sheet metal forming and fabricating in North America. 1,700 exhibitors, live demos, and it's free. Register now at fabtechexpo.com.
The only agent I trust here in Milwaukee is Justin Hoffman with RE/MAX Lakeside. Hey, your friend Sean Hannity here. When you listen to my show, you know I'm very cautious about the stock market, and I prefer bricks and mortar. I prefer real estate. I have the inside track on what's happening in Washington. So what does that mean for you? I'm pretty confident the best days of our economy will be ahead of us, and the real estate market is going to get busier and busier. Now, no matter the reason that you need to make your move, you need talent, you need tools to get your home sold and get on to your next chapter. If you're trying to sell your home and have been trying for months and you're tired of looking at the same for sale sign in your front yard, now is the time to make a friend in real estate that can help turn your challenge into a solution. Now, choose who I trust to create the most demand. Just go to wihomeeval.com. That's wihomeeval.com. Or just Google Team Hoffman and check out over 700 five-star reviews. And then make your move today.
Hey, Dan O'Donnell for Mander Collision and Glass, now with 7 locations to serve you across the greater Milwaukee area. Start your repair right now at mandercollision.com. Mander truly is the best decision after a collision.
Business owners, want to sell your business? At Lake Country Advisors, our team will meet with you face-to-face and will answer all your questions confidentially. Visit lakecountryadvisors.com and schedule a free consultation. Local, experienced, and trusted. We are Lake Country Advisors.
When it comes to selling a home, it can be hard to know who you can trust. I'm Tom Detwich with Grandview Homes. We've spent 15 years helping families move forward with integrity at the heart of everything we do. After all, this isn't just a house we're talking about. It's where memories were made and irreplaceable moments occurred. Our reputation is built on doing what we promise. No surprises, just an honest offer to buy your home. Get your no-obligation offer at grandviewhomes.com today. grandviewhomes.com.
Get organized with new storage solutions at Menards. Dakota closets are versatile and can be installed in any room, from home offices and laundry rooms to walk-in or reach-in closets, and so much more. Use the You Create Closet Planner, available in-store or online, to design a closet system that maximizes your space and matches your style. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Hi, I'm Willa Voss. I'm 8 years old. Mom and Dad own Cut and Go Tree Service. Yes, they did name me after a tree. Our family loves this country and the freedom it provides. Every morning, I look forward to starting the school day with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please say it along with me, even if you just say it in your mind. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. American patriots will enjoy a 5% discount for flying the American flag and mentioning this commercial when the Cut and Go remote control, automobile mounted, articulated crane, grapple saw operators are putting your dead trees on the ground or removing large branches that grew over something important. An all-American Tons of Trees movement, cutandgotrees.com. That's CUTNGOTREES.com.
For safe, purified water right from your faucet, the solution is crystal clear.
Any project, big or small, when it comes to water, one call does it all. SNK, pump and plumbing.
Divergent Family Law offers free consultations for divorce and flat rate quotes so you can make informed decisions about your next steps. Our experienced attorneys are committed to helping you understand your rights and options. Your fair share or better, divergentfamilylaw.com.
For Neri award-winning home renovating,
offering one of the strongest lineups of talk show hosts in the history of local radio. This is Wisconsin's most listened to radio station. News Talk 1130, WISN. We report, you decide. Factual, fair, and balanced coverage. Your exclusive home of Fox News Radio. This is News Talk 1130, WISN.
Former Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, was today at training camp practice joking around about playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars and saying he's been around so long that he doesn't really know anybody except for a couple of coaches. And the analogy he drew to walking around sort of in a daze and confused made me laugh.
One of the weird things is I'm 21 years in the league, so I'm over there. Who do I know on Jacksonville? You know, like I know Heath Farwell, the special teams coach. I played against him. I know Chad Morgan. He was with us, and I've met Trevor a few times. So I was kind of looking around, going, doing the Joe Biden, like, all right, well, I guess I don't know anybody here, so I'm gonna just walk off. And I found Cam and TJ. I was walking next to them.
Yes, he was walking around, pulled a Joe Biden, like, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Biden officially a punchline. I told you people, Aaron Rodgers was one of us. He may have started as a California hippie lib. He is now a conservative Republican. It's just the natural progression of NFL quarterbacks. I've never seen anything like it. The position of NFL quarterback is statistically more likely to be a Republican than perhaps any other than PGA golfer or MMA fighter. Back in my era, Brett Favre, Steve Young, John Elway, Boomer Esiason. Today, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, both Republicans. Remember how Brady had to answer questions about why there was a "Make America Great Again" hat in his locker? Oh, I don't know. And yes, Aaron Rodgers, conservative Republican. Packers quarterback Jordan Love, meanwhile, is going to be out of practice for a while. He's undergoing a procedure on his left thumb after he took an unexpected hit, banging his thumb on a helmet and damaging a ligament. He is expected to return to practice next week. Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst told reporters today Love is not expected to miss any regular season time, but that he is done for the preseason. He is scheduled to have surgery, according to NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport. Gutekunst calls the injury a ligament thing when he attempted to escape the pocket and his left hand made contact with the side of defensive tackle Jay Tufele's helmet on a third down play that ended in a sack midway through the first quarter of the Packers preseason opener against the Jets on Saturday. Love's final play of the game, as you could imagine. This is probably going to ensure the Packers do not play another starter the rest of the preseason, and why I don't necessarily disagree with the idea that you don't play any starters for any extended period of time in the preseason, because the risk of injury is always there. Is Love for sure not going to miss any time? I like the fact that it's on his non-throwing hand, but anytime you hear ligament, surgery, and quarterback together with hand, you know it's not a good thing. Are the Packers cooked? Probably not. But Love, when he's banged up, as he was last season, has proven that his accuracy suffers and the Packers' offense sputters as a result. They're already dealing with a number of injuries to the wide receiver core. Jaden Reed is banged up. They're relying on young players on that offense to complement a very good offensive line and veteran running back Josh Jacobs. But a lot is going to be on the shoulders of Matthew Golden, the very first round wide receiver that the Packers took since about the 1940s. I think he was the first receiver taken since wide receiver was officially a position. They had, when they started throwing the ball, the Packers said, you know what? We don't need to take any wide receivers in the first round. Those guys never turn out. Okay. I hope Love is going to be fine, and you don't take anything away from just a bad preseason game where they got smoked by the Jets. Jets figure to be bad. What I always tell you about the preseason, do you remember when the Patriots went undefeated in the regular season? The only game they lost that season was the Super Bowl. Do you know their record in the preseason that year? Take a wild guess. 0-4. They went winless in the preseason. Preseason games don't really matter. Here's hoping Jordan Love is back quickly. We'll be back tomorrow. Another edition starting at 3:06 here on the Dan O'Donnell Show.